Chapter 2119. Ji Fun, who had been sent away by Ji Feng, arrived at the 8th level of the Jinmu tree. This was the place where only the core members of the Ji people had the right to live. The talented disciples of the Ji people, as well as the relatives of some of the Ji people's higher-ups, all lived here. At this moment, there were countless members of the Ji people floating in the air, watching Su Feng, who was being chased by many Ji people's experts. They were all mocking and cursing Su Feng. Ji Feng's appearance here was like the descent of the god of plagues. Instantly, there was complete silence, and everyone instinctively retreated. Then, many members of the Ji people trembled as they cupped their fists and bowed. "Greetings, Lord Ji Feng." Ji Feng snorted and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at Su Feng, who was being chased. What these members of the Ji people did not realize was that Ji Feng's eyes were no longer glowing with an evil green light. Instead, they were deep and cold. One look at them, and they would feel as if their primordial spirit was being sucked into them. The Golden Rainbow Monarch personally activated the sky-piercing Rainbow Shuttle. Its power was extremely shocking. In a flash, Su Feng turned into a golden rainbow and shuttled through the Jinmu trees, leaves like a flash of lightning. He purposely looked for places where the palaces were densely packed. Wherever the golden rainbow passed, the buildings were destroyed and people died. Screams and explosions sounded one after another. For a moment, the internal space of the Ji people fell into a huge mess. The members of the Ji people were like headless flies. Open all barriers. Under the command of the second forefather of the Ji people, palaces, leaves, and all kinds of restrictions and barriers were immediately activated. Due to the obstruction of the restrictions and barriers, Su Feng's speed was obviously slower. After all, the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle was not the sky-piercing golden rainbow. It cannot ignore all barriers and shackles. The other experts of the Ji people, under the domain lord level, almost all moved out and surrounded Su Feng. Gradually, Su Feng's range of movement was reduced and suppressed. "Shameless Junior. Today, I'll make sure you have nowhere to go." Ji Feng turned into a formless sound wave and chased after Su Feng. It should be about time. Su Feng's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Then, he released 3 chaos giants. They roared and pounced on Ji Feng, who had just appeared. He actually controls the chaos giant? Ji Feng was surprised and immediately sneered disdainfully. "You want to stop me with 3 chaos giants with the strength of a lower ultimate god? What a joke." The chaos giant had a strong body and a violent temperament. It was an extremely terrifying existence in the chaos void. However, for a peerless expert like Ji Feng, who had surpassed the ultimate god realm, the 3-headed chaos giant was nothing. Unexpectedly, in the next moment, the auras of the 3 chaos giants suddenly became extremely violent. Their physical bodies and primordial spirits were burning. Self-destruct. Ji Feng's divine light changed slightly, and he hurriedly put up a defense. Although he was powerful, he did not dare to ignore the power of the self-destruction of the 3 primal chaos giants. Meanwhile, Ji Feng, who was at the 8th level of the Builderwood, suddenly formed a hand seal. The evil aura surged wildly and then exploded with a boom. The evil aura swept out in all directions and enveloped the countless Ji people behind him. In an instant, screams filled with despair and cries of terror suddenly sounded on the 8th floor. Moreover, the evil aura of Ji Feng rapidly spread to other areas. Wherever it went, all living things rapidly declined, died, and withered. Ji Feng self-destructed. This time, even the Ji people's second forefather turned pale with fright. He naturally knew how terrifying the Tao of Plagues was. If it exploded among the Ji people, it would bring about a disaster that would shake the foundation of the Ji people. Ji Wuji immediately reacted and shouted loudly, "Damn it! Ji Feng is controlled by Su Feng. Save our people and suppress the spread of the plague." The Ji people's second forefather's thunderous shout resounded throughout the entire Jinmu world. At this moment, the 3 chaos giants controlled by Su Feng also self-destructed at the same time. The terrifying energy swept out in all directions like raging waves. G people, this time I will collect some interest first. The next time I come, I will exterminate your entire race. Su Fong laughed out loud, feeling incomparably pleased. His figure once again turned into a golden rainbow and shot into the sky, breaking through layers of shackles. Just as he was about to crash into the world barrier, Su Fong used his yang energy to activate the spiritual essence that Ji Bing had left in his chest. As Su Fong expected, a gap automatically opened in the barrier, just enough for one person to pass through. Ji Bing was a spiritual body formed by absorbing the essence of the Jianmu world. Her essence contained the aura of the Jianmu world. Naturally, she would not stop Su Fong. Moreover, Su Fong had killed wantonly among the Ji people and even spread a terrifying plague. The Jianmu world was also conscious. Naturally, it wanted to send this plague away as soon as possible. Suddenly, just as Su Fong was about to escape, the Ji people's second forefather's essence soul projection suddenly descended. It quickly turned into a yang soul and blocked Su Fong's path. You want to leave after killing so many of my people? The golden rainbow paused, and Su Fong's figure appeared. The Ji people's second forefather's yang soul looked like he was gnashing his teeth. How could he not be angry when the Ji people had suffered such great losses? Sovereign Sang Qiu shouted coldly from a void, "Second brother Ji, are you treating my words as nothing more than passing wind?" The Ji people's second forefather said angrily, "Su Fong wantonly slaughtered my people, and his methods were so ruthless. If I don't kill him, how can my people establish themselves in the myriad worlds?" Emperor Sang Qiu, don't go too far. So what if I'm bullying you? Emperor Sang Qiu said indifferently, and his tone carried the majesty of the heavenly Tao. A supreme divine power swept out along with Emperor Sang Qiu's voice, obliterating the Ji people's second forefather's yang soul. Not only that, a will of the heavenly Tao descended upon the Ji clan's second ancestor's body. As though he was being crushed by the heavenly Tao, the Ji clan's second ancestor spurted out a mouthful of blood as his body cracked. He was about to be killed by his sovereign Sang Qiu. When the emperor was angry, it was like the will of the heavenly Tao. Who could stop the will of the heavenly Tao? Emperor Sang Qiu, please calm down. A young man in his 20s walked out of the void and knelt in the direction where Emperor Sang Qiu had spoken. This person was the first forefather of the Ji people's three great forefathers. His cultivation was only one step away from the Emperor Sang Qiu, but at this time he had no choice but to bow his head to Emperor Sang Qiu. For your sake, I'll spare the second forefather's life this time. If you do anything against the Hunyuan Golden List again, I'll kill you directly. Emperor Sang Qiu said majestically. Yes, the first forefather of the Ji people hurriedly agreed. The divine power that almost crushed the second forefather of the Ji people disappeared in an instant. The second forefather of the Ji people trembled, his face full of horror. Thank you for your help, Emperor Sang Qiu. Su Fong cupped his fists and bowed toward the void. Although he had never met Emperor Sang Qiu, he had repeatedly helped him. Su Fong was very grateful to him. Su Fong, I'm very satisfied with your test this time. Extraordinary. You're indeed an extraordinary seedling. I'll be waiting for you in the Yuan Tiangong. Emperor Sang Qiu's laughter came from the void, then gradually faded away. Su Fong asked Jin Hong Wang to activate the heaven-piercing flying rainbow shuttle again. The golden rainbow flashed out of the crack and disappeared into the void outside. At this time, the Ji people were facing a catastrophe of destruction. Except for Ji Feng, the other experts had no time to chase after Su Fong. They all went to stop the spread of the plague. Su Fong, even if you flee to the ends of the earth, this lord will still kill you. Ji Feng let out a roar that was filled with resentment as he chased after Su Fong. The first forefather of the Ji people's face instantly froze. Everyone below the domain lord level, move out. Kill this person at all costs. The entire Ji people was in a huge disaster. This time, They were not just defeated by Su Fong. A third heaven's supreme god had come to provoke them and killed countless of their clansmen, yet he had escaped. This was undoubtedly a heavy blow to the Ji people's prestige. What was even more shocking was that the terrifying plague caused by Ji Feng's self-detonation had affected many of their clansmen. It had led to a disaster that the Ji people had never experienced before. Although the plague was quickly controlled, the losses it caused were extremely disastrous. It had reached the point where the vitality of the Ji people had been damaged. The news quickly spread to the heavenly sound realm and all the other realms. After the upper echelons of the heavenly Pungod race heard the news, they had a discussion and finally issued a strict order to the race. They were to give up on taking revenge against Su Fong. No one from the heavenly Pungod race was to provoke Su Fong. Otherwise, they would be expelled from the heavenly Pungod race. Brahma Heaven God Realm. From today onwards, no one is to target Su Fong. Sanskrit disciples are to avoid Su Fong if they encounter him. A majestic voice rang in the minds of all the upper echelons of the Sanskrit. This voice did not come from the Sanskrit patriarch, but from the first forefather of the Sanskrit sect. Similar things were happening in many forces in the other realms at the same time. However, there were also some god races that had a stronger foundation than the Ji people and the Sanskrit. When they heard the news, they were critical of the Sang-Chio's action of siding with Su Fong. These genius disciples of the god races were also very dissatisfied with Su Fong. There were even some who threatened to challenge him. At this moment, Su Fong was being chased by the Ji people. Although he had the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle, Su Fong's injuries and the strength he had expended were far from his peak state. He had no time to recover as he was being chased by the experts of the Ji people. The Golden Rainbow King's sky-piercing rainbow shuttle was also a huge test for Su Fong's divine body. It would be difficult for him to escape from the heavenly sound realm for the time being. About 100 years later, Wush Ji Feng escaped from the void and appeared in a small realm of the heavenly sound realm. He took out an oval-shaped black disc in his hand. There was a vast river of stars surging within it. Ji Feng activated the disc and sensed carefully. He raised his eyebrows. The stellar positioning disc had just locked onto Su Fong's aura. He was just nearby. Why did it suddenly lose its senses of him? His gaze swept across the small realm below. Ji Feng's eyes flashed with ruthlessness and decisiveness. He must be hiding in this small realm. I'll destroy this small realm. Let's see where else you can hide. In the next moment, Ji Feng formed a seal. A formless sound wave rushed towards the small realm. It caused the space to tremble and shatter layer by layer. Finally, it crashed into the small realm. Boom! Chapter 21:20. Ji Feng executed a divine ability, destroying a small world with one strike. His strength was evident at a glance from this. This small world was under the control of the Ji people. Ji Feng destroyed it without hesitation, which showed how ruthless he was. After destroying the god world, the scene that Ji Feng was looking forward to did not happen. Of course, he did not think that Su Fong would be unable to withstand a single strike from him and turn into dust. Strange, Su Fong is not here. Where did he escape to? Ji Feng frowned and snorted. The star-fixing plate has locked onto your aura. As long as you are still in the vicinity of the heavenly sound realm, you will not be able to escape from me. Buzz, Ji Feng's body emitted a vibrating sound that resonated with the heaven and earth. Soon, he disappeared into the void. About 10 days later, Su Fong's figure appeared in the void less than 10 miles away from where Ji Feng had appeared. To Ji Feng, a heaven monarch expert who was second only to the region master, a distance of 10 miles was equivalent to a mortal's close proximity. Yet, he was unable to detect Su Fong's presence. Of course, it was thanks to the heaven-concealing star flag and the heaven-secret life shrinking technique. The heaven-concealing star flag was a half-destinable artifact. It had the ability to conceal heaven's secrets, distort the stars, and deceive the heavenly Tao. Coupled with the heaven-secret life shrinking technique's ability to conceal fate's aura, even if the Ji people's second grandmaster came personally, he would not be able to detect Su Fong's presence. Looking down at the divine world below, Su Fong was shocked by Ji Feng's ruthlessness. In order to force me to show myself, Ji Feng destroyed a small world with a wave of his hand and killed billions of gods and mortals. Ji Feng is actually this ruthless. There's no hurry to leave the heavenly sound realm. I'll recover my strength first. Then, I'll use the Chaos Sacred Mirror to kill Ji Feng. I'll let the Ji people know the price they have to pay to kill me. Su Fong decisively made a decision. He then used the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique to conceal his aura. Then, he flew to a floating pile of dust. After this little world was destroyed by Ji Feng, everything turned into powder, condensing into large patches of dust like floating clouds. Su Fong landed on a floating cloud, then took out the heaven-concealing star flag. After activating it, it controlled the magic treasure's divine aura to cover an area of 300 meters. Even if Ji Feng had a divine tool that could capture Su Feng's aura, it would still be difficult for him to sense Su Feng's existence. Su Feng still did not dare to be careless. He activated a rune talisman created by the life shrinking technique and released a divine aura that could conceal the aura of fate. Combined with the divine aura of the heaven-concealing star banner, it was difficult for even Emperor Sangqiu to detect Su Feng's existence, let alone Ji Feng. Then, Su Feng took out the Time Immortal's abode and entered it. After forming the hand seals, he transformed his physical body into the yellow spring blood dome state. He frantically devoured medicinal pills, spiritual items, and large amounts of blood crystals to recover his injured physical body and consumed energy. Soon, Su Feng realized that he did not have many medicinal pills and spiritual items on him. This time, he had killed many experts in the Ji people and obtained many storage rings. There were many medicinal pills, spiritual items, and other resources inside. However, with Su Feng's current eyesight, these resources were no longer worth his attention. Golden Rainbow King, give me the medicinal pills and spiritual items. Su Feng's Yang spirit appeared in the Golden Rainbow King's world and unceremoniously asked for medicinal pills and spiritual items from the world spirit. Since my disciple has asked, as his master, I will naturally grant his request. The Golden Rainbow King generously took out a large amount of ancient medicinal pills and a large number of yellow-level spiritual items. The Golden Rainbow King, who cherished treasures as much as his life, was rarely so generous. This made Su Feng very surprised. However, he accepted the medicinal pills and spiritual items that the Golden Rainbow King took out without hesitation. How could Su Feng know that his wanton torment in the Ji people had frightened the Golden Rainbow King's world spirit? Otherwise, how could it take out treasures so quickly? With the medicinal pills and spiritual items provided by the Golden Rainbow King, in addition to the blood crystals that he had accumulated before, Su Feng's injured divine body quickly recovered. Previously, when he used the yin-yang transformation, he had also refined a lot of chaotic qi. His body had recovered by more than half. After swallowing medicinal pills and spiritual items during this period of time, he quickly recovered to his normal state and continued to climb towards the peak of the third heaven. However, he still needed a long time to settle down before he could reach the peak. From the third heaven to the fourth heaven was a small threshold. It was not easy to break through the shackles. During this period, Su Feng also went to visit Xianlingzi. Xianlingzi's wish was finally fulfilled. The knot in his heart was untied, and he became much more cheerful. In the Golden Rainbow King's world, he chatted happily with Su Feng, which made Su Feng feel relieved. After he recovered completely, Su Feng condensed his body again and sensed the depths of his body. Soon, Su Feng found a drop of water hidden in the depths of his body. It was Ji Bing's spirit body essence. Senior Imo Shangsong, Senior Ji Bing. Thinking of Imo Shangsong and Ji Bing, Su Feng fell silent again. A sense of desolation surged in his heart. Xiao Mei has lost her memories and is still in the great world. Xuanxin is still in the Divine Phoenix ancient clan. I don't know what's going on now. And Goddess Luo, from Immo, Shangsong, and Ji Bing, Su Fong thought of the three women whose fates intersected with his. He felt an inexplicable sense of loss. After a long time, this drop of spirit body essence that Senior Ji Bing gave me contains the essence of the creation wood and a kind of extreme yin aura. It's just right to use it to cultivate the world tree. Su Fong adjusted his state of mind to a state of tranquility. Then, he used the yin-yang power of the world to envelop this drop of spirit body essence. Layer by layer, he permeated it and slowly fused it. After completely fusing the spirit body essence, Su Fong sucked it into the heaven and earth Tao palace. Unexpectedly, this drop of spirit body essence was absorbed by the world tree. Then, it entered the yin-yang Tao wheel formed by the 65 yang meridians. Suddenly, there was a violent tremor. Su Fong was surprised and delighted. He took a closer look. He saw that the 66th meridian that was being attacked was successfully condensing. He did not expect that Ji Bing's drop of spirit body essence would cause the birth of the 66th meridian in Su Fong's body. It was too surprising. It was simply an unexpected surprise. Su Fong did not hesitate to use all his strength to activate the 9 yang, 9 transformations. He also used all the power in the yin-yang Tao wheel to activate the chaos essence sacred realm. He absorbed the extreme yin aura from the mirror's mysterious space and used it all to attack the yang meridian outside. Pa, 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 pa. The impact was like a flash flood, causing the entire yin-yang Tao wheel to burn and tremble. The heaven and earth Tao palace formed by the yin-yang Tao wheel and the world tree was filled with the 9 yang divine might. The yin-yang power of the world was also constantly increasing. After countless attempts, there was finally a shout. A yang flame swept across the yin-yang Tao wheel and rushed into the meridian that was being attacked. After an instant of trembling, the burning yang flame was instantly extinguished. The 66th meridian also turned into a jade-like yang meridian. The 66th yang meridian was successfully born. The newly born yang meridian automatically moved to the end of the 65th yang meridian and quickly merged into one. Activating the yang power in his body, Su Fong could feel a vast amount of yang power surging through the 66th yang meridian before finally surging into the world tree. He felt that the entire heaven and earth Tao palace had become more vast. The yin-yang power of the world had also become more profound. Another yang meridian meant that Su Fong's cultivation of the 9 yang 9 transformations had reached another level. Not only had his vitality become more tenacious, but the cultivation of the world in his body had also increased. The ability to control the ancient mirror and the power of the yin-yang transformation would become stronger. The consumption would also decrease. Following that, Su Fong continued to cultivate the 9 yang 9 transformations, devouring spiritual objects and the fire elemental essence of the prehistoric inflammation. The dragon bird also nourished the solar essence fire to quickly replenish the consumption caused by the birth of a yang meridian. Su Fong waited for the yang power in his body to recover. He counted with his fingers. More than 5,000 years had passed in the time cave abode. More than 500 years had passed in the outside world. Time really flies. Su Fong immediately flew out of the time cave abode and kept it in his body. It's time to leave the heavenly sound world and go to the Yuan Tiangong. But before I leave, I have to leave some memories for the Ji people. Su Fong smiled domineeringly. He reached out his hand, and a 3-foot-long flag flew into his palm and was kept in the depths of his body. Then, he peeled off a strand of Yang soul and entered the central space-time of the origin sacred mirror to release his consciousness and Yang energy. Moments later, an extremely cold Yin energy surged out from the black mirror. Shu Wanjin's voice faintly sounded. Su Fong, you still haven't escaped the pursuit of the Ji people? Yeah, you actually managed to birth another Yang meridian. That's great. This is also a good fortune that I obtained from the Ji people. Su Fong smiled embarrassedly. Then, he revealed his plan to lure Ji Fong to his death. Kill Ji Fong? Ji Feng is the strongest expert below the domain lords of the Ji people. His mastery of the great Tao of heavenly sound is not weaker than that of a domain lord. In the future, he will definitely become a peerless expert of the Ji people. It won't be easy to kill him. Killing him is equivalent to stabbing the hearts of the Ji people. Su Feng's bold idea made Shu Wanjin aghast. After pondering for a while, Shu Wanjin said with a murderous aura, "Since we've come to the Ji people, we might as well let the Ji people suffer once and kill Ji Feng." Su Feng flew into the sky and released a strand of energy before disappearing from the world. Next, Su Feng buried the rune talisman of the life shrinking technique in the floating dust clouds. Then, he used the life shrinking technique to conceal his aura. About 10 days later, 3 experts of the Ji people, 2 of whom were at the 9th heaven of the ultimate god realm, and 1 who was at the same level as Ji Feng, appeared in the dust clouds. Unable to find Su Feng, the 3 experts of the Ji people left embarrassedly. Another 3 days later, Ji Feng broke through the sky. He's been here before. This time, Su Feng's energy appeared here again. He must be here. However, he has the ability to conceal his energy. Even the stellar positioning plate can't capture his energy. Ji Feng guessed. Then, he shouted coldly, "Su Feng, I know you're here. Come out." While his voice was still echoing, Su Feng's figure slowly appeared above the floating dust clouds 100 miles away. Form. Chapter 21:21. I thought you were hiding like a rat. Now that you've taken the initiative to release your aura to attract me here, you must have something to rely on. Take it all out. Ji Feng was a peerless expert who was second only to the territorial lord in the Ji people. A divine being who could reach such a height was naturally not an ordinary person. He seemed to be disdainful of Su Feng, but he was actually very cautious. "I've lured you here to kill you. Since you want to kill me, Su Feng, you should be prepared to be killed." Su Feng shouted coldly, "Kill me? You're just an ant. Don't overestimate yourself." Ji Feng sneered. "Your biggest reliance should be that supreme seal, right? How could a puny hierarch realm true god like you wield such a powerful dermic seal? After I suppress you, I will strip away your memories and obtain this seal. I will let this seal blossom with the brilliance it deserves in my hands. I don't only have that seal." Su Feng flipped his right hand, and the Origin's sacred mirror appeared in his hand. He faced Ji Feng with the scarlet mirror. "This is a divine being who ascended from the lower realm, actually has such a supreme divine artifact? I understand now. No wonder you're so heaven-defying. It's because you have such good fortune." Ji Feng sensed the ancient and mysterious aura of the Origin sacred mirror. He couldn't judge the quality of the Origin sacred mirror. He couldn't help but feel shocked. In the next moment, his eyes shone brightly. "How can a lowly cultivator like you have such a divine artifact? It's an insult for this mirror to be in your hands. Only I have the right to have such a divine artifact." Buzz. Ji Feng's divine body shook as he struck out a seal. Q8 ZBSB. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, space, matter, and natural spiritual energy all began to shake. Space rippled like water and matter shattered. The natural spiritual energy also became incomparably berserk under this heavenly sound. Energy and laws collapsed. A peerless expert who was second only to the territorial lord was so terrifying. No matter how powerful you are, can you be more powerful than my Origin sacred mirror? Su Feng sneered disdainfully. The primordial chaos sacred mirror erupted with a terrifying divine might that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. The ancient mirror's divine might enveloped Ji Feng and the surrounding several hundred li radius. Ji Feng's overwhelming momentum was like a firefly in front of the ancient mirror's divine might, instantly vanishing without a trace. Not only were Ji Feng's divine abilities disintegrated, but his aura, God Origin Chi, and God Body were also disintegrated under the ancient mirror's divine power. They reverted back to their original form, turning into Chaos Chi. Ji Feng found it difficult to move within the divine might of the primordial origin holy mirror, but he could sense everything that was happening to him. The shock and fear in his heart could be imagined. He had once witnessed Su Feng using the yin-yang transformation to suppress the seasonal plague. Although he was apprehensive, he was confident that he could resist it. Moreover, Su Feng could only use it once at most. When the time came, capturing Su Feng would be a piece of cake. He didn't expect Su Feng's ancient mirror to be able to release the same terrifying power. Moreover, it was tens of thousands of times stronger than Su Feng's seal. In such a critical situation, Ji Feng did not hesitate to take out his trump card to save his life. He opened his mouth and spat out a divine artifact in the shape of a leaf. It released a kind of heaven and earth fortune energy. It was a half-creation divine artifact. With Ji Feng's current cultivation, he could use half of the half-creation divine artifact's power. Half of the half-creation divine artifact's power was incomparably shocking. Moreover, this leaf-shaped divine artifact was refined from the wood element essence of the builder tree. Its power was naturally not to be underestimated. The leaf grew madly, releasing green xianguang, a terrifying divine might that could split the heavens, and earth exploded with a loud bang. Chi chi chi. The green xianguang released by the divine artifact was quickly refined into chaos chi under the power of the primordial origin holy mirror. It was then absorbed into the ancient mirror's divine artifact space. Following that, the leaf shattered layer by layer and was decomposed into its most primitive state. From a moment Ji Feng took out the half-creation divine artifact to the moment the divine artifact was refined by the primordial origin holy mirror, only 3 breaths of time had passed. Ji Feng's divine light flickered and despair seeped out of his eyes. He gritted his teeth and took out a rune talisman, crushing it with all his might. Dong! A dignified and solemn sound of a drum that shook the heavens and the earth shook, and it seemed as if the heavens and the earth were on the verge of collapsing. The might emanated by this talisman was sufficient to shake a region lord to death. Who would have thought that as soon as the drum sound rang out, it would disappear in the next moment under the divine might of the primordial origin holy mirror? Su Feng and Shu Wanjin joined forces and executed the yin-yang transformation to activate the primordial origin holy mirror. Whether it was matter, energy, or life, everything was refined into Xiantian Qi. Ji Feng's half-creation divine artifact and rune talisman could not resist the divine might of the ancient mirror. They were all refined and then devoured by the primordial origin holy mirror. Ji Feng was in complete despair, but he did not give up on struggling. His divine body turned into a formless sound wave as he tried to break free from the ancient mirror suppression. However, under the divine might of the primordial origin holy mirror, all his efforts were futile. In the end, the sound wave that Ji Feng had turned into was quickly disintegrated and returned to its origin, turning into chaos chi. Even the surrounding natural chi was devoured by the primordial origin holy mirror. The power of the primordial origin holy mirror was so domineering that even a peerless expert that was second only to a domain lord was mercilessly suppressed. Su Feng staggered and felt a sense of emptiness in his body. However, after the birth of 66 young veins, the primordial origin holy mirror was slightly better than when he suppressed the Tian Peng celestial race's expert. At least he could still fly. Golden Rainbow Monarch, run. Su Feng did not dare to stay any longer. He quickly ordered the Golden Rainbow Monarch to release his world energy and activate the sky-piercing rainbow shuttle. He turned into a streak of golden light and left the place. Not long after Su Feng left, the Ji People's experts who were chasing after him arrived one after another. They sensed the remnant aura, including the 2 Ji People's experts who were at the same height as Ji Feng. They were all trembling with fear. The Ji People's first ancestor's primordial spirit also personally descended. Ji Feng is dead. Pass down my order. Give up on pursuing Su Feng. The Ji People's first ancestor said in a deep voice. Ji Feng was an important figure in the Ji People. He had left a life token in the Ji People. The primordial spirit's consciousness left in the life token could sense that the original body had died. The G People's experts were in disbelief. Su Fong has the strength to kill Ji Feng. Then, they shouted angrily, Su Fong killed our G People's experts. How can we give up on pursuing him? The G People's first ancestor shouted. Due to the restrictions of the Primordial Origin Golden List, experts above the Domain Lord level are not allowed to attack Su Fong. Even Ji Feng died in his hands. Below the Domain Lord level, who can be his opponent? Do you think the G People's deaths are not enough? The G People's experts all fell into silence. The first ancestor was right. Even Ji Feng had died. Who else could be Su Feng's opponent? Chasing after Su Feng was tantamount to courting death. The G People's first ancestor sighed. Now, we can only hope that Su Feng can't reach the peak. If he really reaches the peak, our G People, after Su Feng killed Ji Feng, he found a small realm occupied by the resurrected experts. He landed in a desolate mountain and activated the heaven-concealing star flag to cover his surroundings. Then, he began to wantonly devour pills and spiritual items to recover his energy. These pills and spiritual items all came from the Golden Rainbow King's treasure trove. The Golden Rainbow King was incomparably cunning. He could also see that Su Feng's character was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. He planned to use the treasures to make Su Feng's hands go limp. In the end, he would obediently worship him as his master. This time, he had consumed a lot of energy, and what he consumed was the energy of his inner world. Su Feng had spent about 1,000 years in the time cave abode and had finally recovered about 50% to 60% of his strength. Let's see the harvest this time. The primordial origin sacred mirror appeared in his palm. Then, Su Feng grabbed a fist-sized scarlet pearl from it. It was the primordial pearl that was refined from Ji Feng by using the yin-yang transformation to activate the primordial origin sacred mirror. Due to using the yin-yang transformation, the primordial pearl contained the primordial yang qi and the primordial chaos qi that was formed by the fusion of yin and yang qi. Ji Feng, you would never have thought that everything you have would become Su Feng's cultivation material. Su Feng was overjoyed. He immediately stripped the primordial yang qi and the primordial chaos qi from the primordial pearl and used the 9-yang transformation to continuously attack the 67th yang vein. At the same time, he also gave a portion of the primordial yang qi to Long Niao and the prehistoric inflammation so that they could continue to transform together. Su Feng gave the primordial chaos qi in the primordial pearl to Qing Yu, Bai Ling, and his many subordinates. Naturally, Shu Yunkong, Xian Lingzi, and the others were included. However, the primordial chaos qi was harder to cultivate than the power of the world. It was very weak, but it was enough for them to cultivate for a long time. However, the benefits to them were also very great. As time passed, everything about Ji Feng gradually transformed into the strength of Su Feng, his family, friends, and subordinates. Su Feng, who was cultivating in the time cave abode, suddenly had a burst of movement in his body. Then, the tribulation qi surged in his body. After devouring so much primordial yang qi and primordial chaos qi, I'm about to advance to the fourth heaven of the divine venerable realm. Su Feng was pleasantly surprised. The third heaven to the fourth heaven of the divine venerable realm was the transformation from the lower rank ultimate god to the middle rank ultimate god. Whether it was the accumulation of energy in the body or the comprehension of the heavenly Tao law, it was very difficult. Therefore, the difficulty of advancement was multiplied. Su Feng's comprehension of the heavenly Tao law naturally did not cause any shackles for him. However, the accumulation of energy was not something that could be completed overnight. Su Feng estimated that even with the cultivation resources provided by the Golden Rainbow King, it would take at least tens of thousands of years to accumulate. He did not expect to advance so quickly after devouring the primordial pearl this time. The main reason was the primordial chaos qi. This primordial chaos qi of the universe was also a kind of creation energy. It could be said that it was the highest level of energy in the universe. Cultivating with the primordial chaos chi would naturally yield twice the results with half the effort. It was all thanks to the primordial chaos sacred mirror. Ordinary gods, even ultimate gods, could only obtain a trace of primordial chaos chi during the primordial chaos divine tribulation. Chapter 21-22. When Su Fong flew out of the time and space cave, the tribulation aura immediately turned into tribulation fire. The tribulation fire, together with the 9 yang divine fire, enveloped him and burned him up. While his god body was shaking as if it was about to shatter, layers of disgusting impurities were burned away by the kulpa and the fiery clouds. About 3 months later, when the tribulation fire gradually extinguished, Su Fong's aura and the heavens marking his body had all become 4 levels. 4th heaven of godly venerable. Su Fong had already become a medium-level godly venerable. He was considered a peerless expert in the myriad worlds. A 4th heaven ultimate god is indeed an expert compared to an ordinary true god. However, it's still far from enough to survive the apocalypse cataclysm. Su Fong was naturally overjoyed by the increase in his strength, but he did not feel complacent. A medium-level godly venerable could be considered an expert in any star domain. However, Su Fong did not have any power or background. He had defied the heavens to rise and had encountered countless dangers, especially when it came to the interests of some powerful forces. Previously, it was the Sanskrit and the G people. What would happen next? Furthermore, as the 6th metamorphosis swept through the myriad worlds, even the heavenly Tao laws were changed. The real apocalypse was not far away. Not to mention the cultivation of a medium-level godly venerable, even in domain lord expert strength, was far from enough. When the power of advancement calmed down, Su Fong began to crazily devour various elixirs and spiritual items to replenish the huge consumption caused by the advancement. After about 300 years in the time and space cave, Su Fong kept the heaven-concealing star flag and activated the heaven-piercing rainbow shuttle to quickly leave the heavenly realm's material plane. Along the way, Su Fong did not encounter the pursuit of the G people and smoothly left the heavenly sound realm. Su Fong did not find it strange that it was so smooth. He did not know that killing Ji Fong had completely frightened the Ji people and caused them to give up on pursuing him. Of course, this did not mean that the Ji people would let Su Fong go. As long as there was a chance, the Ji people would bare their sharp fangs and swallow Su Fong whole. After leaving the heavenly note realm, Su Fong kept the heaven-splitting rainbow shuttle and changed to flight. Su Fong found it unbearable to use the sky-splitting rainbow shuttle for a long period of time. With his ability to control the world, although his flying speed was not as fast as the sky-splitting rainbow shuttle, it was about the same as an expert like Qi Shao Xinjun. It was far from what other gods of the same level could compare with. After absorbing a large amount of chaos chi, he could even fly in the chaos void. The myriad worlds were simply too big. Su Fong rushed towards the coordinates given by Sovereign Sang Xiao. Most of the time, he had to rely on himself to fly. Occasionally, he would encounter a plane of the God world and use the world-crossing Stargate to teleport between planes of the God world. The hardships of the journey were imaginable, and he encountered countless dangers. There were too many unknown dangers in the myriad worlds. Not to mention Su Fong, even many peerless experts who had surpassed the domain lords had a high chance of dying in the Star River or the Chaos Void. This was unless they had reached the level of Master God like Mo Tiangong and Sheng Wuji. About 500 years later, Su Fong, who was flying in the Chaos Void, suddenly stopped and took out a small mountain the size of a palm. After activating it, the small mountain rapidly extended in the void and finally turned into a huge object with a surface area of 10,000 miles. This object not only had world barriers, it also had abundant natural spiritual energy and world essence. There were mountains, forests, and palaces. It was actually a moving god world. This moving world was the one that Su Fong had obtained from Ji Wuji's second body in the desolate Rainbow City. Su Fong had been constantly fusing with the origin of the moving world these days. Now, he could finally activate it. This kind of moving world could not only accommodate gods, but it could also travel through the chaos void. Its speed was much faster than that of flying magic treasures. However, the amount of spirit veins and divine stones needed to maintain a moving world was also extremely shocking. If one was not a peerless genius from a greater world, even if they had a moving world, they would not be able to afford it. Su Fong was also reluctant to use it. If Qingyu had not been injured, he would not have needed it. However, in order to reach the Yuan Tiangong as soon as possible, he could only grit his teeth and take it out. Fortunately, there was a rich man like the Golden Rainbow King. As long as he was thick-skinned enough to ask for it, the Golden Rainbow King would always agree to his request. The Golden Rainbow King kept calling him master and fully satisfied his desire to be a master. However, when it came to the truly powerful treasures, he was unwilling to relent. Su Fong entered the inner space of the moving world and separated a yang spirit to control the moving world. His main body continued to cultivate. He mainly continued to comprehend the yin-yang transformation and cultivate the nine-yang transformation, the heaven's secret life shrinking technique, the mysterious solution, the blue sky blood dome, and other techniques and abilities. Xu Yunkong, Xian Lingzi, and the rest, as well as their subordinates, the Big Goblin, and Su Fong continued to stay in the Golden Rainbow King's world. If they were placed in the moving world, Su Fong would not be able to afford the daily consumption. Father, a thought was transmitted to him. Other than Gue, only Long Niao could call Su Fong that. Su Fong released Long Niao. Father, this bronze mirror is a little strange. Q8 ZBSB. Long Niao could not make a human sound. He could only transmit his thoughts and spit out a bronze mirror from his mouth. Of course, it was not the chaotic origin holy mirror. Instead, it was the vermilion bird mirror that he had taken from Feng Jinhuan, the son of Feng Mingtian. The vermilion bird mirror could release divine light that could purify evil energy. It was very suitable for Long Niao. Hence, Su Fong had given the vermilion bird mirror to Long Niao without asking any questions. Unexpectedly, Long Niao had swallowed a lot of chaotic origin yang energy and had undergone a significant transformation. It had also further integrated with the vermilion bird mirror, from which he discovered some clues. Su Fong was surprised. What did you discover, Long Niao? Long Niao replied, Mother's aura. Su Fong's heart jolted with incredulity. Xuanxin? You can sense Xuanxin's aura from the vermilion bird mirror? Long Niao was very certain. Yes, but it's very weak. Su Fong's heart stirred with excitement. He immediately unleashed his divine secret life, shrinking technique, to sense the vermilion bird mirror. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As expected, Su Fong sensed an extremely familiar aura from the vermilion bird mirror. The Destiny Dao symbols in his mind began to flash rapidly. Su Fong then released the power of yin and yang, which seeped into the vermilion bird mirror. Most of the vermilion bird mirror had already been fused with by Long Niao. Long Niao's aura was of the same origin as Su Fong's, so Su Fong's yin and yang energy easily seeped into the divine tool. A wisp of his primordial spirit also followed his power into the divine tool. The vermilion bird mirror was actually a demonic tool. It was filled with demonic aura and demonic light. The spell formations and heavenly motes were all naturally formed and were completely different from the divine tools used by divine beings. After arriving at the central space of the vermilion bird mirror, Su Fong's yang soul was greeted by the sight of a spell formation. A crimson xianguang emanated from the spell formation, which twisted into a spiral passageway. The top of the spell formation disappeared into the divine tool. Su Fong's yang soul could clearly sense that there was an extremely weak aura of Xuanxin lingering within the spell formation. The Divine Phoenix Ancient Clan has many treasures. This vermilion bird mirror is not as simple as it seems. Xuanxin is clearly trying to communicate with the vermilion bird mirror through another divine tool. Since Long Niao had yet to fuse with the vermilion bird mirror at that time, she didn't sense anything. Su Fong suppressed the excitement in his heart and extracted a drop of blood essence from his body. He then sent the yin and yang energy of the world, his primordial spirit consciousness, and his blood essence into the spell formation. He felt as if he had traveled through endless time and space. His primordial spirit consciousness appeared in a divine tool space, similar to the one in the vermilion bird mirror. Su Fong. Su Fong's primordial spirit consciousness sensed a thought that was filled with incomparable joy and surprise. In the next instant, a figure slowly appeared in the divine tool space. Who else could it be but Xuanxin? A sense of immense joy filled Su Fong's mind. Their eyes met for a long time, and they didn't look away. They wouldn't complain that time was too long. Everything that had happened in the past 100,000 years was also reflected in their eyes. No one knew how much time had passed. Su Fong's primordial spirit consciousness gradually became blurry and was about to dissipate. It was obvious that communicating with Xuanxin through the vermilion bird mirror consumed a lot of primordial spirit power. Even with Su Fong's powerful primordial spirit, he couldn't take it anymore. Su Fong then began to size up Xuanxin. Xuanxin's yang spirit looked extremely solid. It also emitted a sacred and icy aura that even Su Fong couldn't bear to blaspheme. Su Fong speculated that Xuanxin's current cultivation was at least at the peak of the fifth heaven of the divine venerable realm. Su Fong was able to have his current cultivation because he cultivated the 9 suns, 9 transformations, and had many extraordinary divine tools. Coupled with the supreme providence brought by the purple Qi Dharma spirit, all kinds of opportunities, and good fortune, he was able to have such a heaven-defying improvement. Unexpectedly, Xuanxin's current cultivation had surpassed Su Fong's. How could Su Fong not be shocked? The ancient divine phoenix clan is really terrifying. To be able to raise a cultivator from a great world to such a terrifying level in just over 100,000 years, one could see how terrifying the ancient divine phoenix clan's foundation was. It was definitely not something that the G people or the Sanskrit could compare to. Seeing that his primordial spirit was about to collapse, Xuanxin hurriedly said, "I got a vermilion bird mirror from Feng Mingtian that's the same as the one in your hand. With this vermilion bird mirror, I can communicate with you from the ancient divine world. However, I'm about to go to Yuan Tiangong. When I get there, the vermilion bird mirror will lose its effect." Su Fong came to a sudden realization. This vermilion bird mirror originally belonged to Feng Jinhuan. With the help of the vermilion bird mirror, he could communicate with Feng Mingtian, who was far away in the ancient divine world. Xuanxin somehow found out about Su Fong and knew that Feng Jinhuan's vermilion bird mirror was in Su Fong's hands. Therefore, he tried to get the other mirror from Feng Mingtian in an attempt to contact Su Fong. He didn't expect that he would succeed. Go to Yuan Tiangong? I'm also going to go to Yuan Tiangong. Su Fong was surprised and overjoyed. Xuanxin was also going to go to Yuan Tiangong, which meant that the day of their reunion was not far away. Su Fong instantly became excited. Xuanxin smiled proudly. "Of course I know that you're also going to Yuan Tiangong. You're my Tao partner. You'll also be able to shine in the myriad worlds. We'll meet again in Yuan Tiangong." Chapter 21-23. Su Fong withdrew the yang spirit from the vermilion bird mirror. He felt as if his entire divine aperture was about to explode. However, Su Fong was overjoyed that he had unexpectedly made contact with Xuanxin. One of his goals after ascending for so many years was to find Xuanxin. He did not expect to make contact with him this time. "I'm about to see Xuanxin. Xuanxin's current cultivation has surpassed mine. Looks like I have to work harder." Su Fong's heart was filled with anticipation. Therefore, Su Fong activated the mobile world and sped up. Along the way, Su Fong saw the resurrected experts and the big goblin destroying the god realm. He had a clearer understanding of the calamity. Strength is the way to go. Su Fong's heart was filled with a sense of urgency and danger. About 100 years later, the mobile world shuttled through the chaotic void and arrived at the void filled with the natural aura of heaven and earth. "I should be close to the god realm. Let's go find the trans-realm Stargate." Continuously activating the mobile world consumed an astonishing amount of energy. Su Fong felt the pinch. He would save as much as he could. Moreover, traveling through the Transrealm Stargate was not slower than traveling through the mobile world. It was much cheaper. Rumble. When he approached a small realm, Su Fong's great perfection vision saw divine lightning descending from the sky. There was a god undergoing tribulation on a floating object around the small realm. When he flew closer, Su Fong saw that it was not a god undergoing tribulation, but a big goblin. It was a white-furred demon monkey. It was about 10 feet tall when it stood up. Its entire body was emitting a fierce and violent demon aura. Its strength was even higher than Qingyu and Bai Ling. It was comparable to a peak ninth heaven ultimate god. After overcoming this tribulation, it would surpass the ultimate god realm. It was definitely a peerless big goblin. Following the sixth metamorphosis, it had become extremely difficult for a god to advance. It was the same for the big goblin. This big goblin was clearly extraordinary. Su Fong was in a hurry to go to Yuan Tiangong, so he didn't want to complicate matters. Just as he was about to leave, his perfect vision caught a glimpse of tens of thousands of deities shackled in the ruins. Every time the demon monkey shattered a lightning bolt, it would take advantage of the gap before the next one to open its mouth and suck in a breath. Immediately, a few hundred deities would be swallowed by the demon monkey. The demon monkey's demonic chi, which was originally a little sluggish, suddenly became a little more blazing. Q8ZBSB. This powerful monkey was actually using these deities to replenish its energy. It was using these deities as cultivation materials. This was the law of nature. Cultivators treated the big goblin as a cultivation tool, and the big goblin similarly increased its strength by devouring deities. A human at the godly venerable realm? The demon monkey's sensing ability was also astonishing. It actually discovered Su Fong. You've come at the right time. I was just worried that these humans' blood chi wasn't strong enough. Hee, human, consider yourself unlucky to have delivered yourself to me. The demon monkey let out a hoarse voice. It opened its mouth and sucked in a breath. A huge suction force shackled Su Fong, and he flew towards the demon monkey. Su Fong's lips curled into a cold smile. Just as he was about to be swallowed by the demon monkey, he activated the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda in his body and entered his natal state. The strength of thousands of big goblin and nearly 100,000 experts were all added to his physical body in his natal state. At this moment, Su Fong's strength had surpassed the godly venerable realm. This was the terrifying strength of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. The demon monkey's terrifying demonic chi shackled Su Fong like a whale swallowing a whale. Heaven and earth sealing frost. Su Fong suddenly threw out a punch. A glove-like divine weapon quickly appeared in his hand. It was cold and incomparably majestic. A heavy aura suddenly exploded. Chi, chi, chi. The surrounding temperature plummeted. Heaven and earth were naturally frozen. The demon monkey's body was instantly frozen. However, the demon monkey was still incomparably strong. It exploded with demonic flames and burned away the divine power. Boom! The punch carried a crushing force as it landed on the demon monkey's head. Immediately, the monkey's brain exploded. Even the demon monkey's divine aperture was shattered. The divine lightning and tribulation clouds in the sky lost their target and quickly dissipated. Su Fong stored the demon monkey's corpse in his inner world and sealed it. It was a good material for cultivation. Looking at the shackled gods, Su Fong sighed in his heart. Just as he was about to release his divine power to remove the shackles on their bodies, the Tao of Destiny suddenly flashed in his divine aperture. Could it be that among these people, there's someone whose fate is connected to mine? Su Fong was surprised. Therefore, he used the life shrinking technique to sense the life chi that could cause the life shrinking technique to move. In the end, Su Fong's gaze fell on an old man of the ninth celestial layer. A cultivator of the ninth celestial layer could be considered a strong cultivator in the universe. Moreover, his chi contained the chi of a world. He should be the master of a small world. Su Fong did not recognize this person, but he could sense a familiar presence of life from this person. However, even with the life-shrinking technique, he was unable to tell who this presence of life came from. It was as if there was an invisible power that blocked the senses of the life-shrinking technique. Or perhaps the presence of life was too weak, so it was difficult to determine who it came from. Su Fong stretched out his hand and grabbed the middle-aged man. Then, he used the yin and yang energy of his world to remove the shackles on his body. The middle-aged man hastily knelt down and said, "I am Chu Yuan. Greetings, young master. Thank you very much for saving my life." Chu Yuan? Su Fong recalled carefully. Indeed, he didn't know this middle-aged man. Moreover, this place was far away from the Green Dome starfield. Even a hierarch wouldn't have the chance to go there. This person was just a celestial emperor. Su Fong asked about Chu Yuan's background. It turned out that Chu Yuan was from a small world called the Tianxia Divine World not far from the ruins. He was the master of the Tianxia Divine World. Not long ago, Chu Yuan left the Tianxia Divine World to search for treasures. Suddenly, he received a message from the Tianxia Divine World that the Tianxia Divine World was attacked by a demon cultivator. He hurried back, but was captured by the demon monkey and almost lost his life. The other gods were also captured by the demon monkey. He was going to use them as nutrients for his recovery during the tribulation. Maybe the life-shrinking technique senses are wrong. Su Fong was in a hurry to go to the Yuan Tiangong. After removing the shackles on all the gods, he prepared to leave the ruins. Chu Yuan knelt on the ground and kowtowed. "Young master," Su Fong raised his eyebrows. "You want me to help you save someone? I don't ask for anything else. I just want you to save my child." Chu Yuan's head smashed the rocks on the ground. Although Su Fong wasn't an evil person, he wasn't a good person either. Furthermore, there were so many small realms like the Tianxia Divine Realm that had suffered the same fate as the Tianxia Divine Realm. Even if he wanted to help, he was powerless. However, when he saw Chu Yuan's pale face, Su Fong immediately thought of his father, Su Yaotian, who was far away in the great world. To Su Fong, it might be a small matter, but to Chu Yuan, it was a huge matter. Moreover, when he sensed the aura on Chu Yuan's body that caused the life-shrinking technique to activate, Su Fong changed his mind. When he thought of this, Su Fong sighed in his heart. When did he become so cold and heartless? He nodded. "All right, I'll help you this time." Chu Yuan was surprised and happy. He kowtowed again. The Tianxia Divine World wasn't far from the ruins. Su Fong and Chu Yuan only took 6 hours to reach the Tianxia Divine World. The Tianxia Divine World was slightly larger than Kuan Su's Divine World. It was surrounded by nebulae that reflected a beautiful light. This was probably how the Tianxia Divine World got its name. "When I enter the Divine World, I will devour all of you one by one. Not even a blade of grass will survive." Kakik, he focused his gaze. A demon expert was controlling the flames of the demonic clouds to attack the world barrier. It wouldn't be long before the world barrier would be broken. This demon god was only 3 zhang tall. He had a rough face and 2 sharp bloody horns on his forehead. He was wearing a blood-red robe that was burning with demon flames, and he was emitting an evil aura. It's that demon. Su Fong's eyes shone brightly. It turned out that this demon god was no stranger to Su Fong. It was the fire demon that had almost been killed by Su Fong in the chaos ruins of Kuan Su's divine sect. In the end, it was swept into the void turbulence. He didn't expect that the demon was still alive and that he would meet it here. However, the fire demon had not recovered. After so many years, it had barely reached the level of a lower ultimate god. It was still far from the powerful demon god that Luo had mentioned. Of course, this was also because Su Fong's strength had increased, and he didn't think much of the fire demon. "Master, let me take action and devour this damned flame demon." Prehistoric Inflammation's voice sounded from Su Fong's body. It was a little immature, but it sounded like he was gnashing his teeth. The fire demon had almost devoured Prehistoric Inflammation. Naturally, Prehistoric Inflammation would not forget such a great enmity. The fire demon is a kind of flame nurtured by heaven and earth and contains an evil fire poison. It's not just for you, but also for me and Gue's cultivation. Moreover, I almost lost my life to this demon in the Chaos Ruins. Since I've met it here, of course I won't let it go. Su Fong chuckled. It was also a kind of fortune to meet the fire demon here. Go, but be careful. Don't let the fire demon devour you again. Su Fong waved his hand, and a fist-sized flame appeared. It was prehistoric inflammation. Master, you underestimate me. I've devoured so many of Master's supreme divine artifacts, auras, over the years. Why would I care about this fire demon? Prehistoric inflammation charged at the fire demon with a domineering aura. Su Fong also used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and combined it with his great perfection ability to sense his little realm. He wanted to see if he could find the aura that caused the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to act. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the depths of his divine aperture, Tao runes from the heavenly secret life shrinking technique surged out. This time, Su Fong could finally clearly capture the aura. From some of the Tao runes, he discovered that it was an extremely ethereal aura. In an instant. Chapter 21-24. The power of destiny that triggered the great Tao of destiny of Su Fong's life-shortening spell came from a person that Su Fong could never imagine. Old immortal Yao He. It was the same old immortal Yao He who had ascended with Su Fong. In the transformation's supreme Tao, old immortal Yao, he had saved Su Fong's life at a critical moment. He had burned his cultivation to stop Forefather Grandstar and only left behind a wisp of consciousness in the end. Su Fong had tried to revive him, but in the end, it was all wishful thinking. He could only watch as old immortal Yao He's soul dissipated. At the time, Su Fong had used his purple cloud spirit to imbue old immortal Yao He's soul with a strand of destiny, hoping that he could reincarnate in the universe. He also made a great wish that if there really was an afterlife, he would find old immortal Yao He and repay him for saving his life. However, as Su Fong's cultivation continued to rise, he realized that the so-called reincarnation of the soul was nothing more than a legend. No one could control it, just like no one could control their own fate. There were many experts in the universe who had reincarnated. The 9-cycle reincarnation technique that Ji Wuji cultivated was just a kind of possession technique. It wasn't a true reincarnation. He didn't think that he would really meet old immortal Yao, he who had reincarnated. Although he was a 5th-level heavenly god, the life-shrinking technique would never be wrong. The aura of destiny on this young man was without a doubt old immortal Yao He. It looks like good people really do have good karma. If I hadn't saved Chu Yuan, I wouldn't have met the flame demon. And I wouldn't have met old immortal Yao, he who had reincarnated and fulfilled my wish. Su Fong was pleasantly surprised and deeply moved. Then, he took Chu Yuan and headed straight for the Tianxia Divine Realm. In the blink of an eye, desolate earth flame arrived in front of the flame demon and let out a roar like a burning flame. Flame demon. Q8 ZBSB just as the flame demon was about to conquer a divine world and devour hundreds of millions of deities. Just as he was feeling smug, he sensed the desolate earth flame and was shocked. Soon after, the Balrog began to laugh wildly. It's actually prehistoric inflammation. Kakik. Last time, it was destroyed by that puny human, so I wasn't able to fuse with you. To think that I would meet you here. If I were to devour you, it would be far better than devouring a small world. Destiny, I really do have great destiny. From the Balrog's point of view, prehistoric inflammation was still in its infancy. Wouldn't it be easy for it to devour prehistoric inflammation? How could he not eat this kind of fat meat that was delivered to his mouth? The Balrog's explosive demonic flames clashed with the divine might of the flames of prehistoric inflammation. Boom! Boom! Soon, the Balrog realized that something was wrong. How is this prehistoric inflammation the infantile prehistoric inflammation he had imagined? This time, not only was it unable to devour the prehistoric inflammation, but it was also in danger of being devoured by the prehistoric inflammation. The two types of heavenly flames born from the heavens and earth engaged in a deadly battle in the air. Su Fong brought Chu Yuan into the world barrier. The many gods of the Tianxia divine realm had originally thought that they would not be able to escape this calamity. Who knew that a savior would come, and a self-aware flame at that? They were all shocked and overjoyed. The moment Chu Yuan appeared, the entire divine realm erupted in cheers. Everyone thought that their savior was their realm lord. Father, a young man with a dozen divine emperor realm experts flew across the sky. Su Fong used his great perfection realm ability to sweep the young man and carefully sense him. This young man looked a little like old immortal Yao Crane. He was very elegant and handsome, but his hair was white. His talent was also astonishing. He had cultivated for less than 100,000 years and was already a fifth firmament celestial god. He would be an extraordinary genius in any major world. Su Fong sensed that the young man's godhead was a high-grade earth-rank godhead. He cultivated the great Tao of metal. He immediately recalled how old immortal Yao Crane was extremely excited when he obtained a yellow-rank godhead in the Transformation Supreme Tao. After reincarnation, he actually obtained a godhead that was only second to a heaven-rank godhead. Su Fong could not help but sigh at the impermanence of the world. He felt that the heavenly Tao was unfathomable. What surprised Su Fong was that with the help of the purple Qi Dharma spirit, he could see a thick purple aura hovering above the young man's head. This was a sign of supreme luck. Such amazing luck was far from what Su Fong had seen before. Su Fong pondered for a moment and immediately understood why the young man had such luck. It must be related to the luck that the purple Qi Dharma spirit had given him before he reincarnated. The young man sensed Su Fong's gaze. Seeing him looking at him so unscrupulously with a strange look, the young man showed a displeased expression. Su Fong came with Chu Yuan, but he was too young. It was difficult to associate him with a godly venerable master. If it were not for Chu Yuan's presence, the young man would have acted up on the spot. Seeing this, Chu Yuan suddenly trembled and hurriedly said, "Here, don't be rude in front of a young master. Quickly kneel." The young man and the other Tianxia Divine Realm Masters thought that Su Fong was a young master from a powerful force. The light in their eyes changed as they looked at Su Fong with reverence. However, it was not the kind of respect that one would have for a master. It was purely due to Su Fong's identity. Just as everyone was about to kneel, Su Fong released a divine aura that made it difficult for them to bow. Everyone was shocked and realized that Su Fong was not simply from a powerful force. "What is your name?" Su Fong looked at the young man and asked. The young man cupped his fists and said respectfully, "This humble one is Chu Hexing. Greetings, young master. My name is Su Fong. If you are willing to follow me, I will give you a good fortune and help you reach heights that you cannot imagine." Su Fong's words shocked and stunned Chu Hexing. Although he did not say anything, he felt that it was strange. He thought that Su Fong had a problem with his brain, promising such benefits as soon as they met. Perhaps this person was a swindler, but it did not seem likely. His methods were so clumsy that as long as he was not a fool, he would not fall for it. Chu Yuan had seen Su Fong kill a Lord Realm Demon Monkey with one punch. He knew Su Fong's strength. Now that Su Fong had taken the initiative to take his son away, he was naturally surprised and happy, but he was also puzzled. Su Fong realized that he was too anxious. He smiled faintly and slightly activated the sky-splitting rainbow shuttle. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the flame demon. Chu Yuan and the others could not see him at all. The flame demon was fighting with a prehistoric inflammation. When Su Fong arrived, the prehistoric inflammation dodged to the side, giving him a chance to catch his breath. Sensing Su Fong's aura, the flame demon immediately roared in anger. "Human, it's you?" In the chaos ruins, Su Fong had ruined the flame demon's plans and seriously injured him. He had almost been suppressed by the treasure mirror. What was even more unfortunate was that Su Fong had devoured his luck. Since then, he had been constantly unlucky and had been swept into the void turbulence. He had only managed to escape by luck. Otherwise, the flame demon would have devoured countless gods, and his strength would have increased to an unimaginable level. He would definitely be a peerless demon god in the myriad worlds. How could he be in such a miserable state? You have a good memory. Su Fong smiled faintly. The 9 suns' divine fire suddenly exploded from his palm and turned into a cloud of fire that covered the sky and covered the flame demon. Ah, Hierarch realm. How is this possible? You were only a true god back then. How many years have passed? How could you have reached the Hierarch realm? The flame demon cried out in despair. No matter how he struggled, he could not escape the suppression of the 9 suns' divine fire. In the end, he was sealed in Su Fong's inner world along with the 9 suns' divine fire. Then, Su Fong put away the prehistoric inflammation and once again activated the sky-splitting rainbow shuttle. He directly passed through the barrier of the divine world and appeared beside Chu Yuan. These people naturally knew how terrifying the Flame Devil was. However, Su Fong had actually suppressed the Flame Devil with just a raise of his hand. This shocked Chu Yuan once again. The others were dumbfounded. They looked at Su Fong with eyes full of reverence. Their bodies were trembling, and they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Chu Yuan immediately shouted, quickly thank the young master." Chu Hixing did not hesitate and immediately knelt down to Su Fong. However, he was stopped by Su Fong. "My name is Su Fong. It's enough that you know me. Don't tell anyone else. When Chu Hixing is successful in his cultivation, I will let him come back to see you." Su Fong reminded Chu Yuan. Su Fong. Chu Yuan was shocked. Su Fong had turned the Ji people upside down and even killed a peerless expert who was second only to the Domain Lord. At this time, the news had already spread through various channels. Although the Tianxia Divine World was only a small world, Chu Yuan, as the Domain Lord, naturally knew of Su Fong's reputation. Chu Yuan did not even dare to imagine what kind of future Chu Yixing would have if he followed a peerless genius like Su Fong. Although he was shocked, he was naturally overjoyed. Su Fong hurried towards Primordius Heavenly Palace and didn't stay for long. He left behind some resources for Chu Yuan and then left the Tianxia Divine World through the crossing Stargate, arriving at another great world. Jin Hong Wang. Su Fong's young spirit came to the Jin Hong Wang's world, which was floating in the depths of his inner world. "You don't even call me master. You call me by my name. Don't be rude." The world spirit condensed the image of Jin Hong Wang and appeared in front of Su Fong's young spirit. "Speak. What benefits do you want from your master?" Jin Hong Wang. "Don't you like to take in disciples? I found you one." Su Fong's mind moved and a world spirit appeared, enveloping Chu Hixing. "This kid?" Jin Hong Wang looked at Chu Hixing carefully. At first, he was somewhat disdainful, but gradually his eyes shone brightly. "This kid is not bad at all. Although he only has a high-grade Earth-rank godhead, this seat can sense from his body that there's a supreme, heavenly Tao providence in his body. Even if he can't become a peerless expert in the future, at least he won't be as unlucky as this seat. Not bad. I will accept this kid." Jin Hong Wang was a thief, and some of his powerful treasures were born from the heavenly Tao providence. He could clearly sense a god's providence. Jin Hong Wang was very satisfied with Chu Hixing's providence and immediately agreed. Chapter 21-25. Su Fong passed through the realm crossing Stargate in the Tianxia Divine World and arrived at a great realm called the Frost Divine World. Su Fong was very relieved to leave Chu Hexing in the Golden Rainbow King's hands. Once Chu Hexing's cultivation in the Golden Rainbow King's realm reached a certain level, he would definitely achieve great things in the future. Su Fong's heart felt a lot more at ease now that he had fulfilled one of his wishes. This trip to the Tianxia Divine World had not only fulfilled one of his wishes, but he had also suppressed the fire demon and killed the demon monkey before entering the Tianxia Divine World. These were all excellent cultivation materials. After the upheaval, all kinds of cultivation resources in the universe had become more and more precious. His harvest this time was not small. He would temporarily seal the fire demon and demon monkey in his inner world and slowly deal with them when he had time. Su Fong had to make a trip to the Chamber of Commerce in the Frost Divine World. Along the way, Su Fong had witnessed the destruction of many great realms. He had to prepare some resources in advance. In addition, Su Fang had to purchase a map to the Yuan Tiangong. Supreme God Sang Xiao had only given him a set of spatial coordinates. On the way, he would have to pass through countless planes of the Great Realm. Su Fang had to follow the map and find the most convenient route to the Yuan Tiangong in the shortest time possible. After contacting Xuanxin, Su Fang's heart was on fire. He didn't want to wait a moment longer. After contacting Xuanxin through the Vermilion Bird Mirror, Su Fang tried to contact him again after recovering. However, the message he transmitted was like a stone thrown into the ocean. It was possible that Xuanxin had already entered the Yuan Tiangong. Su Fang walked around the Great Realms Market. His brows furrowed tighter and tighter. Why was this? The entire Frost Divine world was filled with a tense and despairing atmosphere. Su Fang felt as if the end of the world was approaching. The various resources in the market, such as pills, spirit items, materials, divine tools, and other necessities for cultivation, had all skyrocketed by more than 10 times. Su Fang had close to 100,000 experts, the Big Goblin, and several 100,000 members of the Shu clan under his command. All of them needed resources. He could still support them for now, but it was not a long-term solution. After some thought, Su Fang arrived at Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. As expected of the number one chamber of commerce in the universe, almost all the divine realms had their own Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. Divine Jade Tong Bao was also a hard currency in the universe. Moreover, the divine jade treasure itself was formed from the condensation of the natural energy of heaven and earth, containing abundant spiritual qi and the aura of the laws of the great Tao. It could also be used as a cultivation material. So although the price of various materials had skyrocketed, the depreciation of the divine jade treasure was not great. Su Fang had a lot of divine jades and treasures, as well as a lot of divine weapons and resources that he didn't need. He was going to exchange all of them for materials for refining pills and refining tools. He was going to organize his alchemists and refiners to refine them into pills and divine weapons. The main hall of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce was packed with people. Su Fang took out the purple marked divine jade, and a manager of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce brought him to a private room isolated by a formation. Although Su Fang's purple marked divine jade represented the status of a VIP of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce, it was of the lowest grade. However, it was already good enough to receive such treatment. Moreover, Su Fang was so young, so he immediately attracted the attention of many people in the hall. He took out all the useless Tong Bao divine jades, divine weapons, and gems that he had accumulated after ascending to the divine realms. He disposed of them all at once and exchanged them for various materials and pill recipes. From the coordinates of the divine realm to the coordinates of the Yuan Tiangong, he also spent a lot of divine jades on the map of the divine realm. Q8 ZBSB. Now I become a pauper. Su Fang smiled bitterly as he took out the purple marked divine jade. Although this purple marked divine jade was of the lowest grade, it could still be somewhat discounted. In fact, Su Fang still had the Chaos Pearl that the Chaos Sacred Mirror had refined from Jifeng. There was still more than half of its energy left. If he took it out, even a supreme existence like Emperor Sang Qiu would be tempted. Its value could be imagined. However, using the Chaos Sacred Mirror to refine an expert was not an easy task. Su Fang naturally would not take out the Chaos Pearl. While checking Su Fang's purple marked divine jade, the manager's expression suddenly changed. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. Why? Is there a problem with my purple marked divine jade? There is a small problem with the purple marked divine jade, but it's no harm. Please wait for a moment. I'll be right back. The manager cupped his fists at Su Fang, then hurriedly left. It seems that the purple marked divine jade exposed my identity. There might be trouble. Su Fang speculated in his heart. His purple marked divine jade was given to him by Jiang Baozhen. It must have been recorded in the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. With the power of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce, they naturally had the means to find out Su Fang's identity through the purple marked divine jade. However, Su Fang was not afraid of trouble. The Hanshua divine world was at most a large world. How could the experts of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce be stronger than the Ji people? After an incense stick's worth of time, an old man hurriedly rushed over. He seemed to be one of the higher-ups of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. The old man cupped his fists at Su Fong. "May I ask if your surname is Su?" Su Fong said indifferently, "That's right. My surname is Su." The old man's face revealed a respectful expression. He continued, "It is indeed young Master Su. Young Master has a large amount of divine jade in the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce that you have yet to withdraw. May I ask if young Master would like to withdraw it now, or continue to store it in the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce?" Su Fong could not help but be stunned. He originally thought that there would be trouble. He did not expect that not only was there no trouble, but there were also benefits. However, these benefits were a little strange. Su Fong asked in surprise, "Where did this divine jade come from?" The old man replied, "One of them is a bet. The other is a deposit under young Master's name. It comes from a force called Solace. In addition, there is the interest from the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce for so many years." Bet? Solace? Su Fong suddenly understood. Before the final round of the Azure Dome Divine Child Battle Meet began, Sanskrit had bet heavily that Su Fong would not be able to win. Su Fong had secretly bet heavily on himself, betting heavily that he would win. At that time, the bet he had placed was almost the value of a small world. The divine jade that he had won was naturally extremely shocking. With the influence of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce, it was naturally not difficult for them to find out that Su Fong's name was still on the primordial chaos golden leaderboard and determine the winner of this bet. Unexpectedly, the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce had directly placed this huge amount of winnings under his name. After Su Fong left the Azure Dome Starfield, he had lost contact with Solace. Since Solace could continuously place money under Su Fong's name, it could be seen that its influence in the Azure Dome Star Field was growing stronger. Solace was an assassin organization. Naturally, it was incomparably good at making money. Su Fong analyzed that this must be related to the Azure Dome Domain Lord's secret support. With Su Fong's current reputation and status, how could the Azure Dome Domain Lord not show goodwill? "How much divine jade do you have?" The sum of the two items was definitely not small. However, Su Fong naturally did not know how much it was. The old man replied, "There are a total of more than 1 billion divine jade. A few 100,000 is 1 billion. Su Fong's heart thumped uncontrollably. What did it mean to have more than 1 billion divine jade? It meant that he could completely buy a large world. It was a large world, not the wealth of a realm lord. The realm lord of a large world did not mean that everything in the world belonged to him. I'm rich this time." Su Fong, who was worried about being poor, was overjoyed. He immediately became more generous. When Su Fong was personally escorted out of Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce by the old man, he had already squandered all of the 1 billion divine jade. All of it was exchanged for various resources and materials, mainly materials. In addition, there were many medicinal herbs and seeds. Su Fong planned to open up a medicinal herb garden and spiritual field in the Golden Rainbow King's world. This way, the Shu clan and their experts could be self-sufficient. Su Fong was personally escorted out by the higher-ups of Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce, which once again attracted a lot of attention. "Young Master Su, the universe is not very peaceful now. Would you like to ask a few experts to escort you?" The old man kindly reminded him. With his status in Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce, he did not know Su Fong's true identity. He thought that he was a disciple of a big force. At this time, Su Fong suppressed his cultivation. The aura he revealed was only at the 6th heaven of the godly emperor realm. This kind of cultivation would definitely be considered an expert in the universe. Moreover, at Su Fong's age, his cultivation talent could be said to be astonishing. However, at this time of calamity, everyone was anxious. A godly emperor realm cultivator carrying so many resources was obviously not enough. "That's not necessary." Su Fong smiled faintly and rejected the old man's good intentions. The Stargate of Hanchua Divine Realm was built on a material continent not far from the main realm. Su Fong left the main realm and flew towards the material continent. However, not long after he left the main realm, more than 10 gods followed behind him. With Su Fong's experience, how could he not understand these people's intentions? Su Fong did not pay attention to these people. Among these people, the strongest was only at the ninth heaven of the godly emperor realm. Naturally, Su Fong did not take them to heart. As if he did not notice anything unusual, he flew at a leisurely pace. How can we, the impermanence ancestors, let you scoundrels touch the fat sheep that we have set our eyes on? Scram! A thunderous roar suddenly resounded, causing the dozen or so deities who had followed behind to tremble. A few of the weaker, lower-level godly emperors were shaken by the roar. Their primordial spirits lost their consciousness and directly fainted. The rest quickly turned around and left. Whoosh, two middle-aged men, one in front and one behind, sandwiched Su Fong in the middle. The middle-aged man with a dark complexion who blocked Su Fong's path grinned, revealing his white teeth. "Kid, if you don't want to die too painfully, hand over everything on you." Su Fong used his great perfection ability and sensed that the dark middle-aged man in front of him was at the first heaven of the godly venerable realm. The white middle-aged man behind him was at the third heaven of the godly venerable realm. The world changed, and the various rules that restrained the gods were also disrupted. These two were definitely considered powerful experts in the Hanshua divine realm. Who would have thought that they would openly commit murder and robbery? It was obvious how chaotic the Hanshua divine realm was. Chapter 21-26. Mingling in Yuan Tiangong. Su Fong was shocked. Not many people in the universe knew about mingling in Yuan Tiangong. Su Fong had only learned about it from Tsang Yen Hai, and Emperor Sangxiu had given him the coordinates to mingling in Yuan Tiangong. Su Fong also knew that mingling in Yuan Tiangong was a place used to cultivate peerless geniuses in the universe. The best of them would be selected to enter the exalted celestial mountain to prevent the upheaval from continuing. As for what mingling in Yuan Tiangong was like, Su Fong had no way of knowing. How could Su Fong not be surprised when he heard about mingling in Yuan Tiangong from two bandits? Moreover, from the pale-faced, middle-aged man's words, it sounded like they were going to mingling in Yuan Tiangong. Both of them were in the exalted celestial realm. Although they were extraordinary, they did not have the qualifications to know about mingling in Yuan Tiangong, let alone mingling in Yuan Tiangong. You know about mingling in Yuan Tiangong? Su Fong turned to look at the pale-faced, middle-aged man, exposing his back to the black-faced, middle-aged man. You don't even know about mingling in Yuan Tiangong. You really are from another realm of the gods. There won't be any trouble if I kill you. The pale-faced, middle-aged man revealed a ferocious smile. He unleashed an ice elemental divine power, freezing Su Fong and the space around him. There won't be any trouble if you kill me, but you're already in trouble. Su Fong chuckled. The nine-yang divine fire burst out of his body and quickly turned into a cloud of fire. Fourth heaven of the exalted celestial realm. Oh, what a terrifying divine power of fire. The pale-faced, middle-aged man's body was cold. Even if he fell into a 10,000-year-old ice cave, he would not feel cold at all. But now, even his soul was trembling. The fat sheep he had set his eyes on was a tiger. The two of them had chased away other hungry wolves and delivered themselves to the tiger's mouth. Stop! It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. We are the impermanence patriarchs, subordinates of young Master Hansha. The pale-faced middle-aged man was indeed worthy of being a godly venerable level expert. He had experienced countless storms and waves. Caught off guard, he instantly reacted and kept begging for mercy. However, he secretly transmitted a message to the dark-faced middle-aged man, planning to launch a pincer attack. Even if they could not kill Su Fong, they could still easily escape. Who knew? The dark-faced, middle-aged man cultivated the great Tao of fire. When he sensed Su Fong's divine flame aura, his own divine flame aura was suppressed. He even felt like he was losing control. This meant that it wasn't just his cultivation, his grasp of the laws of the grand Tao of fire and the might of his divine might of flames far surpassed him. How many godly venerable ones were idiots? The dark-faced, middle-aged man didn't hesitate to turn around and flee into the void. How could he still pay attention to his companion? Whoosh! A black Xian Guang shot out from behind Su Fang's head and disappeared into the void. I'll fight it out with you. The pale-faced, middle-aged man gritted his teeth and quickly formed a seal. However, he realized in despair that under the suppression of Su Fang's divine flame aura, his great Tao of ice could not be used. At that moment, Su Fang separated his palms and hundreds of flaming blade lights swallowed the pale-faced, middle-aged man. Q8 ZBSB. With Su Fang's current strength, it was easy for him to suppress a lesser ultimate god. After putting away the pale-faced, middle-aged man's corpse, Su Fang flew into the void. A moment later, a powerful primordial spirit descended and quickly turned into a sun god. How dare you cause trouble in my divine realm? If I catch you, I won't let you off easily. Seeing that nothing was found, the sun god resentfully dispersed. What this realm master of the Hanshua divine realm didn't know was that it was fortunate that he didn't manage to find Su Fang. More than 10 days later, Su Fang returned to the divine realm, but not in his true body. Instead, he hid in the body of the black-faced, middle-aged man who had been possessed by his second primordial spirit. Su Fang's second primordial spirit easily possessed the dark-faced, middle-aged man. After performing a soul-searching, Su Fang obtained what he wanted from his stripped memories. So, the black-faced middle-aged man was called Chang Chi Huang and was a peerless expert of the divine realm. Together with the pale-faced, middle-aged man, they were known as the two impermanence ancestors. What Su Fang did not expect was that the Yuan Tiangong was not a secret in the divine realm. Primordia's heavenly palace was different from what Su Fang had imagined. Primordia's heavenly palace was a divine world created by the countless unrivaled powerhouses of the infinite worlds. It was specifically created to raise peerless geniuses in order to cope with the great calamity. The Yuan Tiangong was not located in the various realms or the ancient god world. It was a plane created by the peerless experts in the chaos. It was said that not only was it not affected by the changes in heaven and earth, but the peerless experts had also extracted the origin of the universe from the various realms and the ancient god world. Therefore, the cultivation environment there was far inferior to that of the peerless races of the ancient god world. Because of the sixth change, the 7 evil suns in the sky, the peerless experts changed the rules of the Divine Princes competition and stopped holding it. All the Divine Princes of a planet region, the primordial chaos golden roll, and the peerless geniuses from the ancient god world were sent to the Yuan Tiangong. The inner world of the Yuan Tiangong was also divided into different areas. The peerless geniuses would be tested before entering the Yuan Tiangong. According to their results, they would be able to determine the area they lived in and the cultivation resources they could enjoy. But this was not what shocked Su Fang the most. What shocked Su Fang was that the Yuan Tiangong was not only a holy land for the peerless geniuses to cultivate, it was also a place of refuge. Even if the changes in heaven and earth could not be stopped, the Yuan Tiangong would still be safe and sound and preserve the last bit of vitality of the ancient god world. The peerless geniuses who were selected to enter the Yuan Tiangong could bring a certain number of people with them to live in the Yuan Tiangong. Of course, these people would not be able to enjoy the same treatment as the other geniuses. The number of people who could be brought into the Yuan Tiangong would be determined by the tests the geniuses took before entering the palace and their performance in the next 10 million years. This also meant that those who entered the Yuan Tiangong would be free of worries and would not have to worry about the arrival of a calamity. However, the dark-faced, middle-aged man, Chang Chi Huang, did not know much. The information he had gleaned from his memories was only so much, and it was not necessarily accurate. The reason why Chang Chi Huang knew so much, and why the pale-faced middle-aged man had said so boldly that they could enter the Yuan Tiangong, was because they had joined young Master Han Shuo's forces. Young Master Han Shuo was the #1 genius of the ancient god world. However, he himself did not have the qualifications to enter the Yuan Tiangong. Instead, he had another identity. He had pledged allegiance to a peerless genius from an ancient god race who was ranked on the primordial chaos golden roll. He had become this peerless genius follower. In another 10 years or so, this peerless genius would bring young Master Han Shuo into the Yuan Tiangong, and he would even give him 100 spots. Of course, these were all promises. If they really wanted to enter the Yuan Tiangong, they would have to depend on the results of this peerless genius entrance exam. The Impermanence twin ancestors were not weak themselves, and they had used up all their savings to obtain 2 spots from young Master Han Shuo. As a result, the two of them began to rob others of their treasures. Who would have thought that they would lose their lives because of this? Who would have thought that the Yuan Tiangong was not only a holy land for cultivating geniuses, but also a place of refuge for human cultivators? No matter what, I have to get as many spots as possible. I have to bring all my friends and family into the Yuan Tiangong. That way, even if the apocalypse comes, we will be able to survive. At this moment, Su Feng's eyes shone brightly. His heart surged with excitement, and he found it difficult to calm down. It was as if he had seen a bright path filled with hope. When the apocalypse came and the 3 realms were destroyed, there was nothing he could do to change it. He would not even be able to protect himself, his friends, and his family. Ever since the world changed again, Su Feng's heart had been weighed down by a boulder. Now that he had finally found an opportunity, how could he not be excited? That peerless genius from the ancient god race gave young Master Han Shuo 100 spots. It seems that the spots to enter the Yuan Tiangong are not difficult to obtain. At the very least, Father, Master, and the others can all be brought in. Let's not think about these things for now. In a dozen or so years, young Master Han Shuo will meet up with that peerless genius and enter the Yuan Tiangong. I won't have to travel alone. I can just hitch a ride. Su Feng made his decision. Based on Chang Chi Huang's memories, he found the cave residence he had lived in before. Then, he closed the door and declined all visitors, waiting for the day to come. It's time to deal with the Ifrit. Su Feng randomly found a palace within the cave residence. Then, he peeled off his eyes and entered the world within his body. Before entering the Yuan Tiangong, the stronger one was, the better one's results would be. This also meant that he would be able to obtain more spots, which was equivalent to saving more people. Su Feng naturally didn't dare to slack off in the slightest when it came to cultivation. Su Feng planned to use the Ifrit to attack the 67th Yang Meridian. Although the Ifrit was of the demon race, it was still a type of flame born from the heavens and earth. It was perfect for attacking the Yang Meridian. Prehistoric inflammation could also devour the Ifrit to strengthen itself. As for the terrifying fire poison the Ifrit contained, Su Feng naturally didn't fear it with Gue Gue around. Moreover, the fire poison just so happened to benefit Gue Gue. Su Feng had many experiences with devouring strange flames. This time, devouring the Ifrit was a walk in the park for him. First, he had his second primordial spirit use the power of the primordial spirit to wipe out the Ifrit's consciousness. The Ifrit, which had lost its self-awareness, reverted to its original form. It was a ball of flame that exuded a shocking amount of demonic qi and deadly poison. Su Feng used the power of yin and yang in his world to permeate the flames. He fused the flames together and separated the fire poison from the flames, giving it to Gue Gue to devour. Then, Su Feng split the flames the Ifrit had transformed into two. He kept one for himself, and the other for prehistoric inflammation. Prehistoric inflammation was naturally very excited. Not only did it have a life and death feud with the Ifrit, but by devouring the Ifrit's fire essence, it would undergo another metamorphosis. It might even undergo some mutations. In the past, the Ifrit had almost possessed prehistoric inflammation when it used a planting technique. Now, prehistoric inflammation fused with the Ifrit without any difficulty or risk. Su Feng entered the time, cave abode, and sent the Ifrit's fire essence into the world tree. At the same time, he let the Yang Meridian absorb it. He used the 9 Yang 9 transformations to continuously attack the 67th Meridian. After less than 100 years in the time cave abode. Chapter 21-27. Another Yang Meridian was about to be born. Su Feng couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. This was also a generous reward for Su Fang's kindness. If he hadn't saved Chu Yuan, the realm lord of the Tianxia Divine Realm, he wouldn't have encountered the flame demon. He didn't know how long it would take for the 67th Yang Meridian to be born. He used all the energy in his body to cultivate the 9 suns, 9 transformations, and began to attack the 67th Yang Meridian. He estimated that in a few years, this Yang Meridian would be complete. After repeated attacks, the majority of this meridian burned with a shocking amount of Yang energy. He attacked it no less than 1,000 times. Suddenly, the 67th meridian trembled violently. A pure Yang flame swept through the 66th meridian, and a wave of Yang energy exploded into Xianguang. The blood-colored meridian instantly turned jade-like, and grayish-white Yang energy surged into it. Just like that, the 67th Yang Meridian was born. The newly born Yang Meridian approached the Yin-Yang Dao wheel and connected with the 66th tail, becoming a part of the wheel's outer layer. Su Fang felt the Yang energy in his body become empty. He needed to cultivate for a long time to reach a state of abundance. However, the birth of another Yang Meridian meant that the Yang energy in his body had reached a new height. It had become deeper, more vast, and more profound. At the same time, Su Fang's cultivation speed, especially when he used the 9 suns, 9 transformations, increased by a large margin. There's still a few years before Serhan Shua comes out. I can use this time to recover my Yang energy and increase my cultivation. Su Fang was overjoyed. He continued to absorb the essence of the flame demon's flames and other spiritual items. The dragon bird also nourished the sunfire essence and cultivated the 9 suns, 9 transformations to recover its Yang energy. At the same time, he also consumed pills to increase his cultivation. About 20 years later, in the Cavern of Time, Su Fang, in his Yellow Springs blood dome form, suddenly opened his eyes. They were filled with helplessness and distress. Why was this? It turned out that Su Fang had discovered a rather fatal problem, and that was that it was very difficult for his cultivation to increase by swallowing pills to cultivate. Su Fang even had a premonition that even the Hunyuan Holy Danas would not be as effective on him as before. Ordinary spiritual items would definitely not be of much use, unless it was a spiritual item that contained primordial chaos chi, such as the primordial earth flame or some creation spiritual items. After pondering for a while, Su Fang found a reason. Previously, he had devoured a lot of chaotic chi. This was the highest level of energy that surpassed the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the essence of the world. In addition, his cultivation mainly came from the world in his body, so the energy he needed was naturally of the highest level. Normal spiritual energy would not be of much use to him. After another round of cultivation and verification, Su Fang confirmed his conjecture. This is going to be troublesome. Not only ordinary pills and spirit items, but all the spirit items born in the postnatal world, the pills concocted from them, and even the essences of the world had very little effect on improving one's cultivation. Where can one find so many prenatal spirit items? Right now, the only way is to constantly comprehend the yin-yang transformation and devour the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth, the essence of the world, as well as pills, spiritual items, and other resources, transforming them into chaotic energy for cultivation. But if that's the case, the amount of resources I'll need to cultivate is too shocking. Using the Origin Sacred Mirror to kill Qing Su of the heavenly Peng Divine clan had only refined a fist-sized Origin Pearl. The Origin Pearl he obtained from refining Ji-Feng was slightly larger. However, such an expert could only help Su Fang improve by a small step at most. And this was only in the ultimate God realm. If he wanted to surpass the ultimate God realm, how much resources would he need? I'll have to wait until I enter the Yuan Tiangong. Since the Yuan Tiangong is a holy land for cultivating peerless geniuses, there shouldn't be a lack of resources. Su Fang no longer considered the problem of resources. He still had one Origin Pearl, the one he had refined from Ji-Feng using the Origin Sacred Mirror. He still had more than half of it left. There was also the demon monkey's corpse that could be used for cultivation. Next, Su Fong focused his cultivation on comprehending the yin-yang transformation. The yin-yang transformation was unfathomable and encompassed all techniques. The more Su Fong comprehended it, the more profound it became. It would greatly benefit his cultivation of the nine-yang transformation, the life-shrinking technique, and the mysterious solution of heaven's expansion. This also included the heaven underworld technique and the true ethereal technique. As he comprehended the yin-yang transformation, Su Fong gradually perfected these techniques. 1. A token in his storage ring vibrated, interrupting Su Fong's cultivation. Chang Chi Huang's second primordial spirit took the token and sent out a thought. 3 days from now, Sir Han Shuo will head to Heaven-Seek God World. After meeting up with Sir Wentian, we will head to Primordius Heavenly Palace. Do not miss the time, otherwise we will not wait. It was a message from an expert of the heaven-seeking divine world, informing Chang Chi Huang to move. It's finally time to move. Q8 ZBSB. Su Fong stopped cultivating and was taken into Chang Chi Huang's second primordial spirit space. He left the cave and flew towards the most powerful place in the heaven-seeking divine world. 3 days later, a huge treasure ship 100 miles long left the heaven-seeking divine world under the watchful eyes of countless people and sailed into the void. In an unassuming room, Chang Chi Huang used a formation to seal the room and let Su Fong out. Su Fong executed his great perfection stage ability. Coupled with the heaven secret life shrinking technique, he could sense everything in the treasure ship clearly. This treasure ship was one of young Master Han Shuo's peak-level top-grade divine artifacts. In terms of speed, it couldn't compare to the Stargate Gateway. However, young Master Han Shuo, in order to show off his power, had intentionally chosen to use this treasure ship. Su Fong, who had snuck onto the ship, felt rather helpless. Young Master Han Shuo's cultivation was not high, only at the 8th heaven of the Divine Emperor realm. However, this so-called not high was only relative to Su Fong. For him to have such a cultivation at such a young age, he could be considered an extraordinary genius. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been taken in as a follower by Sir Wentian, nor would he have been given 100 spots to enter Primordius Heavenly Palace. This time, young Master Han Shuo had taken almost all of the experts of the heaven-seeking divine world, including the Realm Lord, his family members, and more than 10 Hierarch experts. In order to enter the Yuan Tiangong, these Hierarch experts had not only submitted to young Master Han Shuo, but also paid all of their wealth to obtain a spot. Su Fong used Chang Chi Huang to sneak into the treasure ship because he wanted to borrow the peerless genius young Master Wentian on the Chaos Golden ranking to enter the Yuan Tiangong. Therefore, he didn't want to be a busybody. After sneaking into the treasure ship, he shut himself in to avoid unnecessary trouble. After sensing the treasure ship, Su Fong was relieved to enter Chang Chi Huang's space. He then entered the Cavern of Time and continued to cultivate. He didn't want to waste even a second. Forming a seal, Su Fong transformed into the Azure Blood Dome. Then, with a thought, the demon monkey's corpse appeared in the Azure Blood Dome world. This demon monkey was the one that Su Fong killed when he was saving Chu Yuan. Its strength was astonishing, comparable to a peak 9th heaven hierarch realm true god. Its body essence and demon chi were naturally boundless, perfect for cultivation. While a stream of blood water wrapped around the demon monkey and swept it into the blood sea. With a sizzling sound, the demon monkey turned into a pool of blood, and the flame of life burned wildly. Su Fong stripped the refined demon chi and blood chi and gave them to Qing Yu and Bai Ling for cultivation. After this period of recovery, Qing Yu had completely escaped the brink of death. However, he was still far from fully recovered and was still in a weak state. This was also the reason why Su Fong was in a hurry to go to the Yuan Tiangong. Only by finding Sheng Wuji could he help Qing Yu completely recover. Su Fong was about to absorb the refined demon chi into his spiritual abode to cultivate when there was a sudden movement in the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth. The demon monkey's life essence rushed toward the world tree on its own. Su Fangdao was shocked. He quickly stripped his son's spirit and entered the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth to take a look. It turned out that the movement came from the soil where the world tree had taken root. Then, an earth-shattering roar sounded. This roar was filled with unruliness, unyielding, berserk, and anger. It also contained a will to defy the heavens. The Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth shook, causing Su Fang's inner world to also sense this great movement. The entire inner world echoed with this unruly roar. It's the demon monkey in the extinguished soil. Su Fang suddenly thought of it and was immediately alarmed and stunned. Su Fang's earth-true body was based on a treasure called the extinguished soil. Later on, he absorbed the Kunwu divine mountain and all kinds of earth essence. The extinguished soil was originally an expert from the divine world called Heavenly Fire Divine Lord. He had refined the ashes of a peerless demon monkey. The extinguished soil contained the demon monkey's remnant consciousness. In the past, the demon monkey had sensed the blood chi of the same kind as him. It had appeared once, but there was no further movement after that. Unexpectedly, the demon monkey that Su Fang had devoured at the peak of the ninth firmament divine realm appeared again and caused such a huge commotion. I wonder what kind of expert Heavenly Fire Divine Lord is. Since he can be called a Divine Lord, he has to be at least as strong as Qi Shao Shinjun. For the demon monkey to be so indignant, it's still so unyielding even after being refined into ashes. Let's see how much you can recover. If you're useful to me, I'll give you a chance for revenge. Su Fang sealed the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace and allowed the demon monkey's remnant consciousness to absorb the life essence. In Su Fang's Heaven and Earth Tao Palace, the life essence had been refined by him and contained his will. The extinguished soil that the demon monkey's remnant consciousness resided in had long been refined by Su Fang. Naturally, he wasn't afraid that the demon monkey would cause an unmanageable situation. Days passed by. Su Fang could sense that the demon monkey's will was becoming clearer in the soil where the world tree had taken root. It was extremely powerful and violent. About 50 years passed. More than half of the life essence of the white-haired demon monkey that Su Fang had killed had been devoured by the demon monkey's remnant consciousness. Roar! Another earth-shattering roar was heard. Su Fang formed a seal and put away the azure blood dome. He merged his physical body and various true body powers, divine essence, and primordial spirit into the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace, transforming it into the state of the universe. Chapter 21-28. The phantom image formed by the monkey demon's primordial spirit was only 100 feet tall, but it gave off a terrifying feeling of indomitable spirit. The peerless monkey demon that had long been refined to ashes and only had a remnant while left had regained its primordial spirit consciousness after devouring the vital essence. Although the primordial spirit consciousness was incomplete, it contained an unruly and unyielding will. It left Su Fang shuddering in fear. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord, get out here. The monkey demon's hollow, primordial spirit roared, shaking the surroundings. This monkey still has a primordial spirit consciousness in the myriad worlds? The Golden Rainbow King's world spirit exclaimed. Su Fang transmitted his primordial spirit voice to the Golden Rainbow King. Golden Rainbow King, you also know of this monkey demon? This monkey is a peerless big goblin from the same era as me. Back then, he wreaked havoc in countless divine worlds and was infamous for his ferocity. Even I admit defeat when compared to him. How could I not know of this monkey's reputation? It's said that this monkey is a big goblin born from the heavens and earth. It's extremely powerful. Back then, even over-gods who surpassed the overlords of the overlords could not do anything to it. It was known as the god of battle. Later, it alarmed a peerless emperor who sent experts to suppress it. The emperor could not bear to kill the monkey, so he got the famous blacksmith Heavenly Fire Divine Lord to refine the monkey with a cauldron. He wanted to turn the monkey into a puppet, but who knew that the monkey would rather die than submit and self-destruct. After so many years, this monkey should have long been reduced to ashes. Why did it leave behind a primordial spirit consciousness? Furthermore, it has become even more violent and ferocious than before. Even I'm a little alarmed. The Golden Rainbow King's words left Su Fong astounded. He never expected the monkey demon to be so powerful that it had alarmed the emperor back then. With a thought, Su Fong condensed a young soul and appeared in front of the monkey demon's primordial spirit. Heavenly Fire, Divine Lord, die. The moment Su Fong's young soul appeared, the monkey demon roared ferociously and charged straight at him. Boom! The will of the heavenly Tao suddenly descended and shackled the demonic monkey phantom. This was Su Fong's inner world. He was the heavenly Tao, and his thoughts were the will of the heavenly Tao. No one could go against him, except for those peerless experts who had the strength to break through his inner world. Heavenly Flame, I will kill you. The demon monkey's primordial spirit was shackled to the point that it could not move. However, it continued to roar and struggle, appearing to be in a frenzy. Su Fong said in a majestic voice, "Submit to me, and I can let you continue to live. You will also have a chance to take revenge." Surrender? Never. Although the demon monkey had regained his primordial spirit consciousness, he was not clear-headed. He was only left with his wild and unruly nature. How could he be willing to submit to Su Fong? The Golden Rainbow King's mocking laughter rang out. Boy, don't waste your energy. When this monkey was alive, he refused to submit to even an Emperor Realm Master. So how could he submit to you now? If this demon monkey is willing to submit to me, you will give me all the treasures above the earth grade. How about it? Su Fong had set his sights on the Golden Rainbow King's treasures. Although the Golden Rainbow King had changed his character of regarding wealth as his life and gave Su Fong a lot of pills and spirit items, in Su Fong's eyes, they were all low-grade goods. The Golden Rainbow King divided his treasures into 4 grades: heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. The treasures he gave Su Fong were all earth grade and below. How could Su Fong care about them now? If you can't subdue him, then take me as your master. The Golden Rainbow King also took the opportunity to put forward a condition. He was still unwilling to give up and wanted Su Fong to take him as his master. It's a deal. Su Fong readily agreed. The Golden Rainbow King faintly felt that something was not right. Destiny is good fortune, and I control heaven's secrets. If I am the master, all the worlds will submit to me, under the power of destiny principles. How could you not submit? As Su Fong used the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique, Tao runes rolled and burned with the mysterious flame of destiny. It enveloped the demon monkey's primordial spirit consciousness like a tsunami. A powerful willpower made the violent and unruly demon monkey tremble involuntarily. Su Fong took the opportunity to brand his primordial spirit imprint deeply into the depths of the demon monkey's primordial spirit consciousness. Master, the unruly demon monkey bowed his head obediently under the power of destiny. The Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique specialized in restraining the primordial spirit, willpower, and faith. No matter how powerful or unruly the demon monkey was, how could it not submit? Q8ZBSB. When the Golden Rainbow King's world spirit saw this scene, it was immediately dumbfounded and could not make a sound for a long time. Su Fong chuckled and said, "Golden Rainbow King, why aren't you taking out the treasure? Here, if I make a bet with you again in the future, I'll slap my own mouth." As the Golden Rainbow King's angry voice sounded, a storage ring was rolled out from the Golden Rainbow King's world spirit. Su Fong's consciousness entered the storage ring to take a look. There were indeed many Earth-level treasures inside, but they were not even 1/10 of the Earth-level treasures in the Golden Rainbow King's treasure. Su Fong put away the storage ring with a satisfied look on his face. He was already satisfied to be able to extort so many treasures from the Golden Rainbow King. If he really took all his treasures, it would be strange if he did not fight to the death with Su Fong. Su Fong could not force him into a corner. After withdrawing the sun spirit into his physical body, Su Fong condensed his original body again. He closed his eyes in the time and space cave and fell in a deep thought. After a long time, Su Fong suddenly opened his eyes. There was a strange look in his eyes. Immortal blood spirit. When Su Fong was in the Great World, he had planned to create an immortal blood spirit. The immortal blood spirit was created with the netherworld sea of blood as the starting point. He used his own blood to transform it into an endless sea of blood. He also used various spiritual objects and the netherworld reincarnation technique to create it. In the Great World, Su Fong had not tried to create an immortal blood spirit because he was worried about being punished by the heavens. Now that he was in the myriad worlds, as long as he did not directly create an immortal world like the netherworld Great Emperor, he would naturally not attract the attention of the heavenly Tao and attract the power of the heavens' punishment. Moreover, as the world changed again and again, the heavenly Tao was eroded by the evil force. The will of the heavenly Tao was gradually replaced by the supreme evil God to create an immortal blood spirit. How could there be any punishment from the heavens? Su Fong planned to use his great perfection physical body as the foundation to create an immortal blood spirit with his blood and let the demon monkey's consciousness merge into the blood spirit. With the immortal blood spirit's physical body, even if the demon monkey did not have the powerful strength it had in the past, it would certainly become a powerful killing machine under Su Fong. In addition, Su Fong's attempt to create an immortal blood spirit was also to prepare for the catastrophe of the end of the world. If his family and friends were to encounter an accident in the future and were to be seriously injured and could not be cured, he could use this method to seize the blood spirit and regain a physical body to be reborn. Su Fong's yang spirit entered the inner world, and then in the inner world, he began to ponder and try again and again to create a reincarnation world of the netherworld. After about 1,000 years, Su Fong's face was full of exhaustion, and his breath of life seemed to be a little weak. However, he smiled and opened his mouth to spit out a ray of bloodlight. The bloodlight quickly condensed into a blood man. It had no facial features and looked strange and terrifying, but it exuded a majestic breath of life. It was exactly the same as the blood chi after Su Fong transformed into the netherworld sea of blood. After repeated attempts, Su Fong finally created an immortal blood spirit. Su Fong's current understanding of the heavenly Tao was many times greater than that of the Emperor of Netherworld. However, the immortal blood spirit he created was not the kind of immortal blood spirit that the Emperor of Netherworld had created in the past. Naturally, it was very difficult, and Su Fong consumed a lot of blood chi after repeated attempts. This immortal blood spirit was created by Su Fong using his own blood as the starting point, adding various spiritual objects, and combining the netherworld reincarnation technique and the path of bloody underworld to create this immortal blood spirit. Demon monkey, come! With a thought, Su Fong grabbed a virtual shadow and sent it into the immortal blood spirit. The virtual shadow of the primordial spirit merged with the immortal blood spirit. The blood man trembled constantly, and his blood chi surged. Su Fong released the power of the 9 suns and the power of the primordial spirit to help the demon monkey integrate with the immortal blood spirit's physical body. Not long after, when the blood man's physical body calmed down, the faceless immortal blood spirit said in a hoarse and unruly voice, "Master." Su Fong used his great perfection ability and carefully sensed the immortal blood spirit. Until now, he still could not find anything special about it, and it was difficult to estimate how strong it was now. However, Su Fong was sure of one thing, and that was that the immortal blood spirit had an extremely strong vitality and an extremely violent temperament. It gave Su Fong a feeling that it was a bit like an Azura. Moreover, this immortal blood spirit had the consciousness of the demon monkey's primordial spirit, as well as Su Fong's blood chi. It would certainly have extraordinary abilities. If there's a chance, I'll find some opponents to test the power of the immortal blood spirit. Su Fong made up his mind. After forming a seal, the blood man turned into a stream of blood and was directly sucked into his mouth and into the depths of his physical body. He constantly nourished the newly born immortal blood spirit with his blood chi. Creating the immortal blood spirit consumed a lot of Su Fong's vitality and blood chi. and his body was in a weakened state. He hurriedly swallowed blood crystals and the spirit items he had just obtained from the Golden Rainbow King to quickly recover his vitality. While Su Fong was cultivating in seclusion, young Master Han Shua's ship had traversed more than a dozen great worlds. It would probably take a few more decades of flying to meet up with young Master Wentian. On this day, a series of hurried chimes of the bell woke everyone on the treasure ship up. Bandits are coming. Get ready to fight at any time. As soon as the bell sounded, young Master Han Shua's voice spread throughout the ship. When Su Fong heard the panic in young Master Han Shua's voice, he couldn't help but feel a little surprised. The Realm Master of the Han Shua Divine World is also on the ship. He is an 8th Heaven Ultimate God expert. What kind of bandits could make young Master Han Shua so nervous? After the 6th upheaval, the myriad worlds had become chaotic. Not only were there resurrected experts and the crazy big goblin, but even the gods had begun to crazily plunder each other. There were more and more conflicts between the various god realms. With young Master Han Shua's ostentatious behavior, it wasn't strange that he had attracted bandits. However, it was strange that the bandits were so strong that even the Realm Master of a great world couldn't resist them. Chapter 21-29. Young Master Han Shua and a dozen or so hierarch experts had appeared at the bow of the ship. The Realm Master of the Han Shua God Realm didn't show himself, but Su Fong could sense that a powerful sensory energy was watching the front of the ship. Thanks to Chang Chi Huang's eyes, Su Fong could see that a dozen or so people in blood-red robes were blocking the ship's path 1,000 miles away. These people in blood-red robes exuded an evil and bloody aura. They were all hierarch experts. Azura. Su Fong's heart skipped a beat when he saw these people. They were all gods of the Azura god race, just like Luo. No wonder young Master Han Shua was so nervous. The Azura god race was an evil and powerful god race. They used to be a powerful force in the universe. Although they were in decline now, the Azura god race's innate love for slaughter was still there. Even the forces of a region lord had to be wary of them, much less the Great World forces. In the Great World, Su Fong had fought the Azura god race several times. However, after ascending to the heavens, he had never seen a true Azura god race expert other than Luo. Su Fong didn't expect to see a dozen or so Azura god race experts all of a sudden. Shocked, he immediately thought of Luo. He didn't know what happened to Luo after they parted ways in the Brahma Heaven God realm. Did he get his body back? Su Fong also sensed that there was a powerful Azura hiding in the nebula high up in the sky. This Azura was obviously stronger than the Hierarch realm. This is going to be troublesome. I just wanted to hitch a ride, but I didn't expect to run into so many Azura experts. Su Fong cursed his bad luck, but he wasn't afraid. These Azura experts were strong, but they weren't a threat to him. Then, Su Fong thought to himself, I can use these Azura experts to test the power of my immortal blood spirit. I can also ask them about Luo. Young Master Han Shua shouted at the Shura Divine tribe's experts. I am young Master Wentian's subordinate. Get out of my way. Otherwise, when young Master Wentian arrives, you will all be suppressed. Su Fong furrowed his brows. Although this young Master Han Shua's talent was extraordinary, he was still an inexperienced rookie. His words were clearly a show of strength. Not only would he fail to scare off the Shura Divine clan's elite, but he would also reveal his lack of confidence. Shura Divine clan's elite had been somewhat wary of him before, but now he would no longer have any misgivings. Kill all these deities. Don't leave a single one alive. And Azura's voice was filled with murderous intent. Other than the powerful cultivator hiding in the sky, the others all charged towards the treasure ship. We can't let them get close to the treasure ship. Kill our way out. The voice of the Frost Moon Realm Lord came from within the treasure ship. Q8ZBSB, swish. Swish. More than a dozen divine venerables came out of the barrier surrounding the ship and attacked the Shura God clan's experts. Chang Chi Huang's second primordial spirit had no choice but to attack as well. Chang Chi Huang, you go and deal with the Azura on the left. An elder with a goatee shouted at Su Fong. This elder with a goatee was a 7th Heaven Divine Venerable. His strength was second only to the Frost Moon Realm Lord, and he was also the leader of the elites under young Master Han Shua's command. You want me to deal with the fourth heaven divine, Venerable Azura? Changqi Wang's eyes flashed with cold light. The Azura on the left was a mid-level divine Venerable, while Changqi Wang was only a third heaven divine Venerable. Not only was his cultivation a level lower, but the Shura divine clan strength was not something that could be measured by cultivation. They could often defeat enemies of a higher level. Sending Changqi Wang to deal with an Azura like this was akin to sending him to his death. It was no wonder. Changqi Wang had teamed up with the white-faced elite in the past. They were known as the Impermanence Twin Ancestors, and they were also one of the overlords of the Frost Moon Realm. They had offended many people because of this. Now that the white-faced elite was not around, Changqi Wang was alone. He would naturally be bullied and sent out as cannon fodder in times of danger. Seeing Changqi Wang hesitate, the goateed elder shouted coldly, "Changqi Wang, you dare to disobey?" "Yes, sir." Changqi Wang cupped his fists at the goateed elder and flew towards the Azurath divine clan on the left. Looking at Changqi Wang's back, the goateed elder smiled indifferently. He looked at Changqi Wang as if he was looking at a dead man. Changqi Wang activated his fire elemental divine power and rushed towards the Azura. "You are just a third heaven divine, Venerable. You want to fight against me?" The Azura sneered disdainfully. Bloody light shot out from his eyes and instantly turned into an evil bloody flame, rolling towards Changqi Wang. The Azura divine Venerable originally thought that he could easily crush Changqi Wang and did not take him seriously at all. After attacking once, he directly flew towards the treasure ship. Who knew Chi? Changqi Wang's fire elemental divine power was suppressed. Just as he was about to be swallowed by the bloody flame, he once again released a shocking fire elemental divine power. It contained a pure yang divine power that could refine all evil. It quickly burned and refined the Azura divine Venerable's bloody flame. You actually have such an extraordinary flame. Then I can't let you live." The Azura divine Venerable was not surprised. He gave up on attacking the treasure ship and charged towards Changqi Wang again. The other divine world experts saw this scene and were very surprised. They did not expect Changqi Wang to have hidden his true strength. Whoosh, Changqi Wang's figure flashed and broke through the void. The Azura divine Venerable chased after him until he was in a dense nebula millions of miles away. He finally caught up with Changqi Wang, who was standing with his hands behind his back. "Your speed is too slow," the second primordial spirit said coldly. The Azura divine Venerable immediately became alert. At this moment, two figures slowly appeared from the star sand. One was Su Fang's original body. The other was a bloody man. It was the immortal blood spirit that the monkey demon's primordial spirit had merged with. It turned out that Su Fang had lured the Azura divine Venerable here to test the immortal blood spirit's strength. The Azura divine Venerable glanced at Su Fang and ignored him. Although Su Fang had the cultivation of a medium-level supreme god, he had expended a large amount of his vitality to create the immortal blood spirit. He was far from recovering and appeared to be weak. Naturally, the Azura divine Venerable would not take him seriously. Seeing the immortal blood spirit, the Azura divine Venerable's eyes lit up with a blood-red flame. "What kind of monster is this?" "Fresh blood. I can smell fresh blood, and it is full of vitality." The Azura divine Venerable's voice was filled with excitement and greed. The Azura divine clan's divine beings were born from fresh blood. They grew stronger by constantly consuming fresh blood. The immortal blood spirit's body was created from Su Fang's vitality. It was a fatal temptation to the Azura divine Venerable. Moreover, the Azura divine Venerable could not sense any cultivation level from the immortal blood spirit. This meant that the bloody man was like food that was specially prepared for him. In the next moment, the Azura divine Venerable unleashed the Blood River Lord. The evil, ferocious, and murderous aura shrouded the surrounding nebula. It was as if he had fallen into the Azura hell. The murderous aura affected Su Fong's primordial spirit and gave him the urge to kill. "You're my nutrients. Come over here obediently," the Azura, divine, venerable, shouted domineeringly. He reached out and grabbed the immortal blood spirit, intending to devour it. Although the Azura, divine, venerable, disdained Su Fong and Chang Chi Huang, he did not let his guard down and focused most of his energy on them. The murderous aura shrouded the immortal blood spirit, and it flew toward the Azura, divine, venerable. "Use your full strength. I want to see the glory of the god of battle." Su Fong transmitted his voice to the immortal blood spirit. Roar! An extremely violent and unruly roar came from the immortal blood spirit's mouth. It shattered the murderous aura that shrouded the area. "Heavenly fire, divine, venerable, I swear I will kill you." The immortal blood spirit's featureless face revealed a ferocious expression. The blood chi on its body was burning. It emitted an aura that could change the world, and a horrifying murderous aura. It took a step forward and the surrounding world shattered. All the rules were collapsing. The Azura, divine, venerable, was naturally bloodthirsty. Facing the immortal blood spirit, he felt a fear that came from the depths of his soul. His will was on the verge of collapse. The Azura, divine, venerable, revealed a look of horror. His body ignited with a raging blood flame. With a whoosh, he turned into a burning blood cloud and traversed tens of thousands of miles in an instant. The strength of the immortal blood spirit is actually so extraordinary. Su Fong was surprised and delighted. He was prepared to use his movement technique to kill the Azura, divine, venerable. Who knew? Suddenly, a vertical eye opened in the middle of the immortal blood spirit's featureless face. A divine shadow shot out from it and instantly swept across the sky. In less than a breath's time, the divine shadow transformed into a staff and smashed down with an aura that could shatter the world. The Azura, divine, venerable's murderous aura defense was instantly shattered like paper. When he hurriedly transformed into his blood-liquid state, he was smashed into a blood mist by the divine shadow of the staff. He couldn't be more dead. At that moment, Su Fong was no longer surprised. Instead, he was shocked. His heart was in turmoil. What the immortal blood spirit used was definitely not a divine ability. The immortal blood spirit was just a body created by fresh blood and restrictive spells. Naturally, it couldn't master a divine ability. What he used just now was the demon monkey's divine ability. Its power was terrifying. However, the power of the demon monkey came from the body of the immortal blood spirit. After the attack, the vertical eye between the immortal blood spirit's eyebrows closed. Its blood and chi seemed to have been sucked dry, and its body became shriveled. Su Fong also saw the drawbacks of the immortal blood spirit. Although it was extremely powerful and could kill a mid-level ultimate god in one blow, it had to pay the price of burning its own blood chi. Just as Su Fong was about to take out the blood crystal for the demon monkey to replenish its blood chi, the demon monkey let out a low roar and flew toward the blood chi of the Azura, divine, venerable. Hiss. Chapter 2130. Immortal blood spirit, come back. Su Fong immediately called back the immortal blood spirit. Immediately, Su Fong was surprised to find that the immortal blood spirit's featureless face had a faint outline of facial features. Although it was still very vague, he could still recognize that it was the face of a demon monkey. After devouring the Azura Master's blood, the immortal blood spirit's aura had obviously become more ferocious, violent, evil, and murderous. Azura was a murderous monster born from fresh blood. His blood was filled with an evil and murderous aura. Even Gue, who devoured everything, did not dare to devour a medium ultimate god. When Su Fong used the heaven underworld to devour Azura, he had to first use the Nine Suns' divine fire to refine the evil aura contained in the Azura's blood. Otherwise, his primordial spirit and consciousness would be affected and he might even become bloodthirsty. The immortal blood spirit devoured the blood as if it were nutrients. Not only was it fine, but it also recovered and strengthened itself. After this experiment, Su Fong finally figured out the immortal blood spirit's strength and ability. The immortal blood spirit had the innate ability of a demon monkey and was extremely ferocious, even more terrifying than Azura. As the immortal blood spirit was created from Su Fongda's perfect body's blood, it was created by combining the path of bloody underworld and the netherworld reincarnation technique. This gave the immortal blood spirit the ability to devour blood. The demon monkey was originally an arrogant and ferocious big goblin. After being refined in the tripod for millions of years, the remnant primordial spirit and consciousness were filled with hatred. The Azura's evil consciousness could not affect him. The flaw of the immortal blood spirit was that it needed to burn its blood to perform its ability. However, this flaw could be compensated by the ability to devour blood. If I cooperate with the immortal blood spirit with my identity as Blood Shadow, this immortal blood spirit, refined by the demon monkey, will be a killing machine. Great, this is great. Su Fong was naturally overjoyed to have such a powerful expert under his command. How dare you kill my clansmen? I'll break your bones inch by inch, extract your meridians, and then suck your blood dry. A bloody and murderous aura suddenly descended and enveloped Su Fong. The commotion caused by killing the Shura Master was not small. It had alerted the Shura Master hidden in the depths of the nebula. The Shura Master had used the supreme skills of the Shura Divine Clan and created a world of slaughter. Following this, several illusionary figures emerged from the world of slaughter. There were at least 100,000 of them, which gathered toward Su Fong from all directions. Slaughter doppelganger? These phantoms were all filled with a bloody and murderous aura. They were somewhat similar to the slaughter doppelganger that the Blood River Lord had sent to the outside world back then. It was the slaughter doppelganger formed by this Azura expert's ability. Su Fong's true strength had long surpassed the hierarch realm. Why would he be afraid of this Azura expert? However, this Azura expert was a peerless expert that had surpassed the hierarch realm. Su Fong did not dare to be careless. He immediately integrated all of his energy and primordial spirit into the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace. An independent world that existed between heaven and earth appeared in the world of slaughter. Unlike the worlds created by other experts, Su Fong's world was a universe with the supreme heavenly Tao. It immediately covered the Azura expert's world of slaughter and crushed it. Puff, puff, puff. More than 100,000 slaughter doppelganger collapsed and turned into clouds of bloody mist. Finally, it condensed into an old man wearing a blood-red cloak. The old man's divine body was condensed from fresh blood. It was constantly fluctuating and exuding an endless murderous aura, as if he was the god of slaughter from hell. A world in your body. You've cultivated a small world in your body. You're no ordinary person. I don't want to be enemies with someone like you. Let me out, and I promise that the Shura Divine Clan will not seek revenge on you in the future. The old man realized that he had kicked an iron plate this time. Those who could cultivate a small world in their body were only a few peerless giants in the universe. Of course, Su Fong could not be a peerless giant. However, to be able to cultivate a small world in his body, he must be a genius from the ancient Divine Clan. However, although the Azura expert was shocked, his words still carried an undisguised threat. The gods of the Shura Divine Clan were indeed ferocious. Su Fong's young spirit appeared and swept its eyebrows. I have an unusual relationship with two experts of the Shura Divine Clan. The old man was stunned and asked in surprise, "My clan has always been hidden in the dark world and rarely appears in the universe. How do you know the experts of my clan? You should know the Blood River Lord, right? You know the Blood River Lord?" The old man was surprised and then let out a sigh of relief. "It's good that you know the Blood River Lord. This is a misunderstanding. Let me out." Su Fong smiled and said, "Actually, I have an even closer relationship with the other supreme existence of the Shura Divine Clan. He is your Shura King." "King?" The old man's expression changed. "You know the defunct king of my clan? Tell me where he is now, or you will be the mortal enemy of the Shura Divine Clan. No matter who you are, You will be hunted down by the Shura Divine clan forever. It seems that Luo is not in the hands of the Shura Divine clan. Su Fong was relieved. He was most worried that Luo would be captured by the Shura Divine clan before he could get his body back. You should worry about your own life first. Su Fong shouted coldly. With a thought, the world in his body shook and a terrifying aura of the way of the heavens enveloped the old man. Whoosh! The black mark that the second primordial spirit resided in also attacked the old man's primordial spirit. Roar! The immortal blood spirit leaped out and pounced on the old man's body, biting and tearing at him. The immortal blood spirit did not have any facial features, but every time it bit, it would suck away a large amount of blood chi from the old man's body. That crazy and ferocious look of the immortal blood spirit frightened Su Fong. At the same time, Su Fong released his blood shadow doppelganger to devour the old man's blood chi. Then, it entered the immortal blood spirit's body and transferred the blood chi into his body. In less than half an hour, the Shura expert who had surpassed the ultimate god realm was completely gone. The blood chi and murderous aura that condensed his divine body were completely devoured. His primordial spirit consciousness was also merged and taken over by the second primordial spirit. Shuras were supposed to be immortal beings. But now, this Shura expert was completely dead in such a short time. Roar! The immortal blood spirit roared into the sky. A terrifying aura filled with murderous and unruly aura soared into the sky. Su Fong's inner world shook, causing many of Su Fong's subordinates in his inner world, and even the Golden Rainbow King's world spirit could not help but have the urge to kill. The immortal blood spirit's originally featureless face quickly grew facial features. It had a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks. Its eyes were ferocious and filled with evil, murderous intent. It was the appearance of the demon monkey. Su Fong sensed the demon monkey's aura and could not help but be shocked. After devouring the Shura expert who had surpassed the ultimate god realm, the demon monkey's current strength was comparable to a ninth heaven ultimate god. It was much more powerful than an ordinary great realm lord. How could a god achieve such a terrifying increase in strength? Su Fong sent a thought to the immortal blood spirit. Go back. Unexpectedly, the immortal blood spirit hesitated for a moment before a bloody light flashed in its eyes. But after a moment, it obediently followed Su Fong's order and was sent into his natal treasure, the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. Su Fong could sense the demon monkey's primordial spirit consciousness becoming more violent and ferocious with the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. If it was not for the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, Su Fong would not be able to control the demon monkey and might even suffer a backlash. At this moment, the demon monkey was neither a great demon nor an evil demon. Instead, it was a monster of slaughter. This immortal blood spirit is definitely not the kind of immortal blood spirit created by the Netherworld reincarnation technique. It must have been influenced by the deathly aura of the heavens and earth and deviated from the direction I originally designed. It has completely turned into a killing monster, and its only remaining consciousness is to seek revenge on the heavenly fire divine lord. With this monster of slaughter, my overall strength has greatly increased. However, I have to control it carefully. If I lose control and suffer a backlash, that would be playing with fire. Su Fong was secretly on guard against the immortal blood spirit. Following that, Su Fong restored his physical body. His primordial spirit fused with his second primordial spirit and obtained the Shura expert's memories. As expected of Law. Good job. Su Fong was pleasantly surprised after deciphering the Shura expert's memories. It turned out that Law had returned to the Shura Divine clan after he separated from Su Fong. After all, he was once the rightful Shura king and had many loyal subordinates. Although most of them were killed, there were always some that escaped. With the help of his loyal clansmen, Law infiltrated the Shura Divine clan and seized the sealed body. Then, he escaped from the Shura Divine clan. However, Law had also paid a heavy price. The Shura Divine clan's experts had almost turned out in full force to hunt him down. He was seriously injured and nearly fell into the hands of his clansmen. Not only were the Shura divine clan pursuing law, but they were also preparing for the apocalypse. They were killing and plundering without restraint. The Shuras Su Fong encountered this time were not only to search for law, but also to plunder the various divine realms. Who would have thought that they would run into Su Fong? With Law's shrewdness, if he could escape from the Shura divine clan, he definitely wouldn't be caught. Shura divine clan, I'll kill everyone I see. In Blood River Lord, it's time to settle the score with you in the great world. Su Fong's eyes exuded traces of coldness. Unexpectedly obtaining information about Law was an unexpected gain. Su Fong decided that before he entered the Yuan Tiangong, he would find a way to find Law. Su Fong flew in the direction of the treasure ship. With the realm lord of the Han Shua divine realm on the ship, the dozen or so Shura experts were no threat to him. However, Su Fong estimated that after encountering the Shuras, the ship must have left long ago. Chapter 21:31. As it turned out, Su Fong had lured away one of the Azura Masters, and Su Fong had also lured away the hidden Azura Masters. Young Master Han Shua had easily defeated a dozen Azuras and killed 3 of them. What Su Fong didn't expect was that young Master Han Shua hadn't ordered the ship to leave. Instead, he had personally led his masters to search for Chang Chi-Wang. This action of young Master Han Shua's made a good impression on Su Fong. Although this person was inexperienced, he didn't abandon his subordinates so easily. His character wasn't bad, and his actions had won over the hearts of his subordinates. Chang Chi-Wang, you're unharmed? The goateed elder was surprised to see that Chang Chi-Wang, who was possessed by his second primordial spirit, was completely unharmed. Chang Chi-Wang mocked him coldly. It looks like you really want something to happen to me, don't you? Young Master Han Shua nodded. That's good. Luckily, Chang Chi-Wang lured away the strongest Azura Masters. Otherwise, we would have been in great danger. I have never mistreated my subordinates. When we return, I will reward them accordingly. Chang Chi-Wang and those who killed the Azura Masters have all contributed greatly. I will definitely reward them handsomely. The goateed elder's eyes flashed with jealousy and hatred. Now that he hadn't been able to kill Chang Chi-Wang, he would have to be on guard against his revenge. Chang Chi-Wang had also been rewarded and valued by young Master Han Shua. The goateed elder was furious. Young Master Han Shua asked Su Fong about it. Su Fong lied that he had used a movement technique to escape the pursuit of the Azura Masters. Young Master Han Shua was suspicious of something. He waved his hand and led everyone back to the ship. After returning to the ship, young Master Han Shua grew suspicious of Su Fong. With his strength, he could still faintly sense the presence of the Azura Master hidden in the sky. Otherwise, if he had personally acted, a dozen Azura Masters wouldn't have been a problem. In addition, the battle between the immortal blood spirit and the Azura had been too loud. How could young Master Han Shua not have sensed it? Although he didn't get anything out of Su Fong's mouth, the Frost Moon Realm Lord was still suspicious of Su Fong. In the following journey, he repeatedly used his sensing power to spy on Chang Chi-Wang's room. Su Fong didn't really take it to heart. The great realm lord that was once unreachable was no longer considered anything to him now. After about 100 years, the treasure ship finally arrived at the rendezvous point with young Master Wentian. It wasn't on the plane of the divine world, but in the void. An incomparably huge fish was floating in the void. This fish looked like Qin Yu after she transformed into a koan. It was 100,000 miles long. Of course, it was not a big fish. It was a type of koan. On the giant Leviathan's back, there was a material continent that was tens of thousands of miles wide. Forests, mountain ranges, palaces, pavilions, and birds roamed about. It was a moving world. However, this mobile realm was much more impressive than the one young Master Tianwu and Su Fong had obtained from Jiwuji. Young Master Wentian is from the Heaven-Seeking clan, one of the top 100 ancient divine races. Not only is he of noble birth, he is also a peerless genius on the primordial chaos golden list. You must be careful. Don't offend the people around young Master Wentian. Otherwise, you will not be able to escape death. Even I will not be able to protect you. Seeing the giant Leviathan from afar, young Master Hanshua put away the treasure ship and warned his subordinates and the people around him. After entering the material continent on the giant Leviathan's back, young Master Hanshua and his subordinates were settled on a small mountain peak. Su Fong and his subordinates were all given a cave residence. After Su Fong entered the cave residence, he immediately closed the door to cultivate. He no longer cared about the outside world. After waiting for another 100 years, the giant Leviathan's tail swayed, and it disappeared into the void with the material continent on its back. Su Fong entered a state of cultivation in the time, cave residence, and forgot about the passage of time. After an unknown amount of time, Su Fong's second primordial spirit transmitted a thought. Main body, we are almost there. Young Master Hanshua invites you over. Arriving so soon? Su Fong counted with his fingers. He had been cultivating in the time cave residence for nearly 3,000 years. Time really flies. After such a long period of seclusion, Su Fong's cultivation level had not reached the peak of the fourth heaven of the ultimate god realm. However, his improvement was not small. This was mainly due to the Chaos Origin Sacred Mirror refining Ji Feng's Chaos Origin Pearl. In the Golden Rainbow King's world, Su Fong's subordinates and the Shu clan's people had begun to build cities, alchemy halls, and weapon refinement halls. They were already self-sufficient. His subordinates, including the Big Goblin, had also improved by quite a bit. However, there was still a fatal problem that could not be solved. Due to the changes in heaven and earth, when his subordinates tried to break through to the next realm, it was very difficult for them to attract the chaos divine tribulation. Su Fong planned to wait until they reached the natural world and let his subordinates try again. Calculating the time, Shu Wanjin should be able to escape her shackles by now. However, there was no news from her. I'm finally going to the Yuan Tiangong. I wonder if Xuanxin has arrived. Su Fong's heart was filled with anticipation. Chang Qiwang's second primordial spirit left the cave residence and went to see young Master Hanshua. It turned out that young Master Wentian had many guests and wanted to organize a gathering of geniuses. Young Master Hanshua was one of young Master Wentian's subordinates and thus had the opportunity to participate. He could even bring 5 people with him. Due to Chang Qihuang's meritorious service in the battle against Azura, young Master Hanshua gave him this opportunity. Other than Su Fong, there was also the Realm Lord Han Sha, the Goateed Elder, and 2 other ultimate gods. Going to the gathering of geniuses? Su Fong heard this from Chang Qihuang's body and could not help but feel depressed. However, since things had already progressed to this point, he had no choice but to let his second primordial spirit continue to control Chang Qihuang. When they reached the entrance to the Yuan Tiangong, they could just leave. Young Master Wentian's guests were all peerless geniuses from the various worlds. There were more than 100 people, and each of them was a genius from the divine world. As young Master Han Shua's subordinate, Chang Qihuang naturally did not have the qualifications to enter the palace where the gathering was held. He could only watch from the outside. With the help of Chang Qihuang's eyes, Su Fong saw each and every one of these geniuses. Although they were not as good as Ji Wuji compared to the geniuses of the Azure Dome Star Field, whether it was cultivation talent or strength, they were much better. Moreover, each and every one of them was noble and extraordinary. Su Fong used his great perfection realm ability to eavesdrop on the conversations between these peerless geniuses. He learned a lot about the Yuan Tiangong. These peerless geniuses that came from the influences of the myriad worlds and the god race all had an understanding of primordious heavenly palace that Chang Qihuang could not compare with. The Yuan Tiangong was not a huge palace like Su Fong had imagined. It was a vast divine world. The Yuan Tiangong was divided into 4 regions: the Heaven Realm, the Earth Realm, the Black Realm, and the Yellow Realm. Different regions had different cultivation environments, resources, and status. Those who had the qualifications to enter the Yuan Tiangong were not only the peerless geniuses on the primeval chaos golden ranking, but also the divine children of the various star fields. Whether it was the primeval chaos golden ranking or the divine children of the various star fields, They had to undergo a test before entering the Yuan Tiangong to determine which region they would be assigned to. These geniuses who could enter the Yuan Tiangong had the right to bring their family and friends into the Yuan Tiangong. However, the number of people who could enter the Yuan Tiangong depended on their results. From the conversations between these geniuses, Su Feng learned that some of the ancient god race clans, mainly the clans of the venerable sovereigns who had founded the Yuan Tiangong, could directly live in the Yuan Tiangong without any restrictions. The Yuan Tiangong was not only a cultivation holy land for the peerless geniuses, but also a place of refuge during the apocalypse. Only these supreme god race clans could enjoy such privileges. Strength will always be the most important thing. Within Chang Shi Huang's body, Su Feng heard this news and thought of his family, friends, and subordinates in the outside world and the inner world. He couldn't help but clench his fists. With strength, one could naturally enjoy such privileges. Without strength, one could only sit and wait for death. Everyone, I heard that many peerless geniuses have come from the ancient god world recently. Everyone should be careful. If we lose to them in the Yuan Tiangong, we will lose face. When someone mentioned the geniuses of the ancient god world, Su Feng's spirits rose, and he pricked up his ears, afraid that he would miss a word. So what if it's the ancient god world? They're just a bunch of trash who relied on resources. When they enter the Yuan Tiangong, this young master will teach them a lesson. Someone said loudly, very dissatisfied with the geniuses of the ancient god world. Most of the forces and god clans that these peerless geniuses belonged to were inextricably linked to the ancient god world. They were either branches of the ancient god world's god clan or vassal forces. Because the god clan of the ancient god world was more powerful than the 8 forces of the god world, these peerless geniuses were naturally dissatisfied with the geniuses from the ancient god world. We can't underestimate them. I heard that there are still many peerless geniuses in the ancient god world. That's true. This young master heard that not long ago, there was a peerless genius from the ancient god Phoenix clan, Phoenix Xuanxin. Her talent is heaven-defying, and her beauty is unparalleled. It's hard to find such a beauty in the universe. Someone actually mentioned Xuanxin. I heard that this Phoenix Xuanxin not only has a talent for cultivation and a peerless beauty, but she's also as cold as ice. She doesn't give any face to the peerless geniuses of the ancient god world. If we can take her as a cultivation partner, it will be a great honor for our god world. The geniuses roared with laughter, and the atmosphere became frivolous. Phoenix Xuanxin, she will be my Buji's woman. A domineering voice was heard. Then a figure flew across the sky and landed in front of the main hall. He strode into the hall where the gathering was held. Inside and outside the main hall, there was a sudden silence. This person looked to be in his 20s. He was tall and strong, and his face was rugged. Chapter 21:32. Everyone who didn't know this person was dumbfounded by his appearance. Such a weirdo was too shocking. Those who knew or had heard of Buji's name all had expressions of fear and dread on their faces. Finally, someone in the hall couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't those peerless geniuses. It was a young god among the followers of those geniuses. Young Master Han Shua. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Everyone's eyes fell on young Master Han Shua. Young Master Wentian's expression changed as he shouted, Han Shua, kneel down and apologize to young Master Yin. Young Master Han Shua finally realized that he had made a huge mistake and quickly knelt down. I deserve to die. Please forgive me. You think I'm not worthy of the ancient god world's genius? Phoenix Xuanxin? Buji asked. I wouldn't dare. Q8 ZBSB. Buji continued. Or perhaps you think that I am extremely funny? Young Master Han Shua kowtowed repeatedly. I wouldn't dare. I deserve to die. Young Master Yin, please forgive my son for his ignorance. Realm Lord Han Shua also knelt down before Buji. He was a realm lord and young Master Han Shua's father, so he naturally had the right to be in the hall. He didn't expect young Master Han Shua to make such a huge mistake and had no choice but to stand up. Young Master Han Shua didn't know Buji, but Realm Lord Han Shua did. This young man named Buji was a terrifying existence. Enbuji's cultivation base had reached the peak of the third heaven of the ultimate god realm. Moreover, he cultivated the great Tao of yin and yang that had been passed down since ancient times in his family. He was extremely powerful and had a shocking record of killing a realm lord. Although such a peerless genius was extremely rare in the divine world, it wasn't as if they didn't exist. Enbuji's cultivation aptitude might not be much, but the Shun clan he belonged to was extraordinary. Among the countless Shun clans in the myriad worlds, including the ancient god world, the Yin clan was ranked within the top 100. Enbuji had made some mistakes in his cultivation, causing his yin and yang to be out of balance. This was why he had the appearance of a man, but the personality of a woman. Although Enbuji's name was Buji, he had many taboos. His biggest taboo was his appearance. Young Master Han Shuo actually laughed in front of everyone. Wasn't he courting death? Whoosh! Enbuji reached out and grabbed young Master Han Shuo, pulling him in front of him. An astonishing power of yin and yang circled around young Master Han Shuo, preventing him from moving. Spare me, young Master Yin. The Frost-Start Realm Lord could only watch helplessly as his son fell into Enbuji's hands. However, he didn't dare to make a move and could only loudly beg for mercy. Enbuji reached out and pinched young noble Han Shuo's face. He laughed and said, "You look quite soft and tender. Very well, I'll spare your life." Everyone felt as though Enbuji's hand was caressing their faces. All of them instantly felt a chill run down their spines. Young Master Han Shuo's entire body felt as if it had been encased in ice, but he had no choice but to brace himself. Trembling, he said, "Thank you for sparing my life, young master. Not only will this young master not kill you, but I will also give you good fortune and take you in as my concubine. If you serve this young master well, this young master will guarantee you benefits." Enbuji's hand slid down from young Master Han Shuo's face to his chest. Young Master Han Shuo was scared out of his wits. "Young Master Wentian, save me." Young Master Wentian, who was sitting on a main seat, said indifferently, "Since young Master Yin has taken a liking to you, that is your supreme fortune. Why would I stand in your way?" Young Master Han Shuo was young Master Wentian's follower, but in the eyes of these young masters, he was no different from an ant. Why would young Master Wentian offend Enbuji for an ant? Young Master Han Shuo fell into complete despair. Outside the palace, for the sake of this gathering, the array formation around the palace had been removed. From outside, one could see everything inside. When everyone saw that young Master Han Shuo had brought disaster because he couldn't hold back his laughter, they all trembled. Of course, there were also those who rejoiced in his misfortune. Among the experts brought by young Master Han Shuo, the goateed elder and two other experts saw that the situation wasn't good and shrank to the back of the crowd. Su Feng, who was inside Chang Chi-Huang's body, saw this scene and couldn't help but frown. "Young Master Yin, don't go too far." Realm Lord Han Shuo roared in anger. At this time, he had already lost all reason and pounced towards Enbuji. After all, he was the realm lord of a large realm. Because he had the opportunity to enter the Yuan Tiangong, he had given up everything to follow young Master Han Shuo. Now that his son had fallen into Enbuji's evil clutches and was living a life worse than death, how could realm lord Han Shuo endure? "You're courting death," Enbuji shouted domineeringly. One of his eyes surged with a fiery light, as if a divine sun was hidden within it. His other eye, however, was filled with an eerie white coldness that condensed into a bright moon. Two Xianguang flashed out of Enbuji's eyes, intertwining with each other and exploding with a kind of yin and yang divine might that alternated between day and night, as well as the alternating cold and heat. It landed on Realm Lord Han Shuo's body. Realm Lord Han Shuo's cultivation was at the 8th heaven of the supreme god realm. Moreover, he cultivated the great Tao of ice, so his strength was extraordinary. He had the strength to fight against the 9th heaven supreme god. However, under Enbuji's yin and yang divine might, his great Tao of ice collapsed layer by layer before he could even release it. His aura field was also shattered as he was pushed back hundreds of meters. He finally stopped after crashing into a pillar in the main hall and spat out a mouthful of blood. Buji's cultivation was only at the third heaven of the supreme god realm. Realm Lord Han Shaw, a realm lord of a large realm, couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. The yin and yang divine might was terrifying, both inside and outside the main hall. Whether it was the peerless geniuses or the experts under their command, all of them were shocked. Realm Lord Han Shaw roared again and pounced towards Buji again. Buji revealed a murderous intent. He released young Master Han Shaw and quickly formed a seal with his hands, once again using the yin and yang divine might. It was different from the divine might that alternated between day and night, as well as the alternating cold and heat. Once this seal was formed, everything in the surroundings immediately fell into a strange state of stillness. Time, space, and everything else stopped. Realm Lord Han Shua's body seemed to be sealed in ice as he fell into stillness. An instant later, everything in the surroundings suddenly changed from a state of extreme stillness to a state of intense motion. Day and night, cold and heat, they belonged to the Tao of yin and yang. Movement and stillness also belong to the alternating cold and heat of yin and yang. Buji's yin and yang divine might encompassed everything in the world. It was above all other great Taos, and its divine might was incomparably shocking. The divine might of yin and yang that changed from stillness to motion released a terrifying power that shattered the surrounding space. Realm Lord Han Shua's aura field and divine body trembled violently before shattering layer by layer. "Father!" Young Master Han Shua cried out in despair. Realm Lord Han Shua's eyes were also filled with despair. Suddenly, an incomparably shocking, murderous aura swept towards Buji from outside the main hall like a tidal wave. Buji felt his heart skip a beat as he almost lost control of his primordial spirit. His body retreated rapidly as the fatal blow he had aimed at Realm Lord Han Shua dissipated into nothingness. Realm Lord Han Shua had just walked on the brink of death. His entire body fell cold as he looked outside the main hall in shock. He couldn't understand who had come to his rescue. A black-faced, middle-aged man walked into the main hall with a red-robed man behind him. The black-faced, middle-aged man was only at the third heaven of the ultimate god realm. The red-robed man behind him couldn't see through his cultivation level. He looked ferocious like a monkey, and his aura was filled with murderous intent. He was like a god of death that had descended. Anyone who looked at him would feel their scalp go numb. Changqi Wang, Realm Lord Han Shua, and young Master Han Shua looked at the black-faced, middle-aged man in disbelief. The black-faced, middle-aged man was naturally Changqi Huang, who was controlled by Su Fang's second primordial spirit. The red-robed man was the undying blood spirit that had been merged with the primordial spirit of the demon monkey. Buji roared, "Who are you? How dare you sneak attack me?" The cold voice of Changqi Huang's second primordial spirit came out of Changqi Huang's mouth. "I'm just a slave under young Master Han Shua. Since young Master Han Shua was humiliated, as a subordinate, I naturally wouldn't sit by and do nothing." Buji looked at the undying blood spirit behind Changqi Huang with fear in his eyes. He then coldly shouted, "Lowly slave, how dare you be so arrogant in front of me?" As soon as he finished speaking, Buji quickly formed a seal. At this moment, a vast but empty primordial spirit power exploded from Changqi Huang's eyes. It crashed into Buji's divine aperture's defense like a tidal wave. Who are you? How can you have such a powerful primordial spirit?" Buji's expression changed drastically. His divine aperture's defense was almost broken. How could he have the time to use his divine powers? The second primordial spirit's attack was only meant to intimidate him. It wasn't meant to kill him. Buji was lucky enough to escape death. However, he was so scared that his face turned ashen. Even his thick foundation couldn't cover it. The many peerless geniuses in the hall were all shocked. They didn't expect such a peerless expert to appear at this gathering. As for Realm Lord Han Shua and young Master Han Shua, they were completely stunned. They didn't expect Chang Chi-Huang to be such a powerful expert. They also didn't expect him to come to their rescue at such a critical moment. Buji didn't dare to act rashly anymore. However, he was still arrogant and overbearing. Where did you come from? Do you know what the consequences of going against the peerless tribe are? Tribe, Chang Chi-Huang smiled faintly with a hint of disdain. He glanced at Buji coldly. The second primordial spirit said, "A monster that doesn't look like a man or a woman. You came out to scare people, and don't even allow others to laugh. What a joke. You even dare to have designs on Huang Xuanxin. How disgusting." You. Buji was enraged. His face twisted and the foundation on his face fell. Everyone in the hall couldn't help but want to laugh. However, they could only hold it in. They didn't want to incur Buji's anger. Just as Buji was about to attack, the immortal blood spirit let out a violent roar. A strong, murderous aura filled the hall. Buji completely gave up on the idea of attacking. Young Master Wentian and the other geniuses didn't stand up for Buji either. Realm Lord, Young Master Han Shuo, let's go. Chapter 21:33. Thank you for saving us, my lord. The moment they returned to their residence, the Realm Lord and Young Master Han Shuo knelt down at the same time. Young Master Han Shuo's eyes were filled with gratitude and respect. He had never imagined that Chang Chi-Huang, who wasn't particularly outstanding in Han Shuo realm, would possess such shocking strength. Su Fang's second primordial spirit said coldly, "Rise. If you had abandoned me that day when we met the Azura God Clan's expert, I wouldn't have saved you this time. Today's consequences are merely the seeds of yesterday's seeds." Young Master Han Shuo finally understood and rejoiced inwardly. There was another reason why Su Fang had intervened. He was very unhappy with Buji's inhuman nature. Such a monster dared to blaspheme Xuanxin. How could Su Fang feel good about it? I can predict that with Buji's twisted personality, he will definitely seek revenge. He must have contacted the experts of his clan and is on his way here. Where should you go? Su Fang's second primordial spirit asked. The Realm Lord smiled helplessly. Where could they go now? They had offended Buji, which meant that young Master Wentian had abandoned them. Forget about entering the Yuan Tiangong. They wouldn't even be able to find a place to stay in the future. Because of young Master Han Shuo's laughter, they had fallen to such a pitiful state. This was the tragedy of the week. The Realm Lord of a great realm could be considered the ruler of a region. But in the eyes of these ancient god clans and disciples of powerful forces, he was nothing. The weak would always be bullied and slaughtered. This was the law of nature, and no one could change it. The Realm Lord originally had thoughts of joining Su Fang, but after seeing the undying blood spirit, he guessed that Chang Chi-Huang was an evil cultivator and gave up on the idea. Su Fang could see the Realm Lord's thoughts, but he didn't force him. Su Fang's second primordial spirit said, "I can take you out of here. As for your future plans, you can decide after we leave. Let's go. If we don't leave now, the experts Buji contacted will be here soon." Due to his fear of Su Fang's strength, when they left, Wentian Young Noble did not stop them, allowing Su Fang and the others to successfully escape. This time, young Master Han Shuo had brought a total of 100 people with him. They had all thought that they would be able to rise to the heavens with him. But who would have thought that this time, disaster would befall them? Only 5 of young Master Han Shuo's 10 or so godly paragons had left with him. The goateed elder and the others had all stayed behind. With their godly paragon's level of power, it would not be difficult for them to find new backer. They quickly left the substance on the giant Leviathan's back. Just as they were about to separate, the divine light of Chang Chi-Huang, who had been possessed by the second primordial spirit, suddenly changed. You've provoked the supreme tribe and offended young Master Buji. Do you think you can escape just like that? An indifferent and domineering old voice sounded from the void. In the next moment, a domineering and incomparably terrifying aura suddenly descended, enveloping Chang Chi-Huang and the members of the Frost Moon Divine Realm. Then, a kind of heavenly might that alternated yin and yang struck Chang Chi-Huang's body with crushing force. Chang Chi-Huang's cultivation level was only at the 3rd heaven of the godly paragon's level, But the expert who had used the yin and yang divine might had a cultivation level higher than the deity emperor realm, and had even reached the level of an area lord. Chang Chi Huang's divine body could not withstand the pressure and shattered into a bloody mist. A figure flew out from Chang Chi Huang's shattered divine body. It was Su Fang's original body. You've really been possessed. Even my attack could not kill you. No wonder even young Master Buji was not your match. The figure of an old man appeared from the void. This old man's appearance was ordinary. He had a pair of eyes, one black and one white. There was also a black and white yin-yang heavenly scar between his eyebrows. His aura was void, making it difficult for Su Fang to sense his strength. The strength of a region lord is indeed unparalleled. Su Fang was shocked. He forcefully suppressed a gush of blood that had risen to his throat. He had also been affected by the Yin tribe elder's divine might when he was in Chang Chi Huang's body. Luckily, the ancestral dragon protective garment had released a defense in time and blocked the elder's attack. As Su Fang's cultivation level continued to increase, the ancestral dragon protective garment's ability that had been sealed by Mo Tiangong was also being unlocked. Its defense was also becoming more and more shocking. Even after blocking a powerful attack from an area lord, Su Fang only suffered a small injury. Kill him. I want him to regret being born. Yin Buji flew out from the material world on the giant Kuin's back, gritting his teeth as he roared. Young Master Wentian and the other peerless geniuses followed closely behind Yin Buji. I don't care who you are. Since young Master Buji wants you to die, then you should die. The Yin tribe elder said majestically. He was like a supreme ruler that controlled the life and death of all living things. He raised his hand and pointed at Su Fang. In an instant, a terrifying divine might of yin and yang covered Su Fang's body and was about to crush Su Fang into powder. Suddenly, a golden Xian Guang suddenly appeared in the void above Su Fang and fell down like a waterfall. It turned into a golden list and emitted a supreme divine might that shattered the Yin tribe elders' yin and yang divine might and instantly disappeared. It was the chaotic essence golden list. Now that Su Fang was facing the suppression of an area lord, the chaotic essence golden list automatically appeared and released a protective divine might. Chaotic essence golden list. The Yin tribe elder's divine light changed instantly. His eyes were filled with respect and fear as he looked at the chaotic essence golden list. Yin Buji, young Master Wentian, and the other peerless geniuses were all surprised and shocked. The Hanchuo realm lord, young Master Hanchuo, and the others were all dumbfounded. They never thought that Chang Chi Huang would be possessed by a peerless genius on the chaotic essence golden list. Su Fang sneered. My life and death is in my control. Yin Buji, this monster that is neither yin nor yang, also wants to control my life and death? Yin Buji was infuriated. The foundation on his face fell off like a layer of snow. Young Master Wentian shouted domineeringly. So what if you're on the chaotic essence golden list? I and most of the other geniuses here are also peerless geniuses on the chaotic essence golden list. How can we allow you to be so arrogant? The other peerless geniuses also sneered disdainfully. In terms of status, they were all from the top 100 forces and ancient divine clans. Their status was noble and unmatched. In terms of cultivation talent, these geniuses were all carefully nurtured by the various forces and divine clans. Which one of them was not talented? Among them, there were many who were on the chaotic essence golden list. The Yin tribe elder said gloomily, since you're on the chaotic essence golden list, you shouldn't be a nobody. Tell me your name. Who is your protector? Ask him to come out. The Yin tribe was an ancient divine clan in the divine world. In terms of strength, they were much stronger than the Sanskrit and G people. Although this Yin tribe expert was wary of the chaotic essence golden list, he was still extremely arrogant. If Su Fang's protector was an ordinary overgod expert, with the Yin tribe's power, even if they could not kill Su Fang today, they would still teach Su Fang a lesson. Su Fang said, My name is Su Fang. My previous protectors were Tsang Yin Hai, Mo Tiangong, and Sheng Wuji. Su Fang? Why does this name sound so familiar? Song Yanhai, Mo Tiangong, and Sheng Wuji, these three lords, are his protectors. This person is definitely not an ordinary person. Although these three are peerless experts, they're not outstanding among the many protectors on the Chaotic Essence Golden List. With these three protectors, this person doesn't have the right to be arrogant in front of young Master Yin. Before Su Fong could finish speaking, the geniuses broke out into a flurry of discussion. Some were surprised, while others snorted disdainfully. The Yin tribe elder shouted, "Ask Song Yanhai to come out. I want to ask him how a reckless and arrogant person like you managed to get on the Chaotic Essence Golden List." The Yin tribe was just that domineering. This Yin tribe elder was only an area lord expert, but he dared to look down on Song Yanhai, a peerless over-god expert. As for Mo Tiangong and Sheng Wuji, the Yin tribe elder directly ignored them. Song Yanhai, Mo Tiangong, and Sheng Wuji were my previous protectors. Now, I have an additional person called Emperor Sangqiu. I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to invite the Emperor Sangqiu. Why don't you invite him personally? The corners of Su Fong's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. Emperor Sangqiu. The Yin tribe elder's body trembled. His eyes were filled with incomparable reverence as he looked at Su Fong. The arrogance in his eyes had completely disappeared. Yin Buji, young Master Tianwan, and the others were also shocked as they looked at Su Fong in disbelief. In a myriad worlds, Emperor Sangqiu was a supreme existence, just like the heavenly Tao. There were more than 1,000 peerless geniuses on the Chaotic Essence Golden List, but in the myriad worlds, excluding the ancient god world, how many Emperor Sangqiu were there? Therefore, very few Emperor Sangqiu would be a Tao protector, except for the top geniuses who were the focus of attention. Most of the ordinary Chaotic Essence Golden List geniuses were protected by experts like Song Yanhai. Q8 ZBSB. Su Fong's Tao protector was actually Emperor Sangqiu. From this, it could be seen that Su Fong was a peerless genius. What was even more ridiculous was that the Yin tribe elder actually wanted Emperor Sangqiu to come out and meet him. No matter how powerful the Yin tribe was, they had no right to be arrogant in front of an Emperor Sangqiu. This person is called Su Fong? Ah, I remember now. He defeated the Ji people alone and spread a plague among the Ji people. He even killed Ji Fong, and other Ji people's experts. That genius is indeed Su Fong. It's actually him. Someone finally remembered Su Fong's identity and exclaimed loudly. Many geniuses subconsciously retreated a distance away. Yin Buji snorted coldly. So it's an ant that ascended from the great world where the Ji people were causing trouble? My Yin tribe is not the Ji people. I won't allow you to be arrogant in front of this young master. If it wasn't for Emperor Sangqiu protecting you, this young master would definitely suppress you. Young Master Buji, be careful with your words. The Yin tribe elder warned Yin Buji using his Yuan spirit. Su Fong's ruthless methods made the Yin tribe elder wary. Moreover, Su Fong's Tao protector was Emperor Sangqiu. It would be foolish of him to clash with Su Fong over such a small matter and bring trouble to the Yin tribe. The Yin tribe elder said, "Young Master Buji, let's go." Su Fong, you have Emperor Sangqiu supporting you. This young master can't do anything to you now. Once we enter the Yuan Tiangong, this young master will make you pay a heavy price for what happened today. Chapter 21:34. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Everyone's eyes fell on Su Fong. An ascended cultivator from a great world dares to challenge the dignity of the supreme god race. Even if this person's cultivation talent is heaven-defying, he will die sooner or later. He only dares to be so arrogant because he has the support of Emperor Sangqiu. He's just an ant who bullies others. It won't be long before I let this ant from a great world know what a true genius is during the Yuan Tiangong entrance exam. Young Master Wentian and the other peerless geniuses from the various realms and god races were shocked. They looked at Su Fong with hostility and hostility. Then, there was a flurry of discussion. Some snorted at Su Fong, some mocked and ridiculed him, and some were full of jealousy and jealousy. Why was this? These peerless geniuses from large factions and god races had enjoyed unimaginable resources since they were young. They cultivated supreme techniques and divine powers, and their status was high and lofty. In their eyes, other than geniuses like them, everyone else was just an ant. Now, a peerless genius of humble origin had suddenly appeared. Moreover, he had ascended from a great world. Not only had his talents surpassed theirs, but he had also obtained the favor of Emperor Sangxiao. Moreover, he had repeatedly provoked powerful forces and ancient god clans. How could they not be hostile towards Su Fang? Chang Chi Huang was possessed by Su Fang. No wonder he suddenly became so powerful. The Cold Shuo Realm Lord and his son, as well as the others from the Cold Shuo Realm, were overjoyed as if they had seen their savior. The Cold Shuo Realm Lord no longer hesitated and knelt before Su Fang. I am willing to submit to young Master Su Fang and serve Su Fang as my master. I will follow young Master's orders in the future. I will not hesitate to go through fire and water. Young Master Han Shuo and the others also knelt. Rise! Su Fang used his divine power and lifted everyone from the Cold Shuo Realm. Han Shuo Realm Lord was a Realm Lord, and he also had 5 hierarch experts. Su Fang was lacking such experts, so how could he not agree? Then, he said majestically, "Become an expert under my command. As long as you're loyal to me, I will naturally not treat you unfairly in the future. Not only will I not treat you as slaves, but I will also not treat you as cannon fodder. When I enter Yuan Tiangong, I will naturally bring you along." "Thank you, Master." Han Shuo Realm Lord and the others were all overjoyed. The reason they chose to side with young Master Wentian was because they wanted to have a safe place to stay when the calamity engulfed the myriad worlds. Who would have thought that at the moment of life and death, he would be mercilessly abandoned by young Master Wentian? Su Fang's background was not as good as young Master Wentian's, but he had Emperor Sangxiao as his backer. His future was far from what young Master Wentian could compare to. Su Fang could also bring them into Yuan Tiangong. Furthermore, Su Fang had saved young Master Han Shuo from Yin Buji's clutches simply because young Master Han Shuo hadn't abandoned him when they were fighting against the Azura Divine Clan. That was enough to show that Su Fang's character wasn't something young Master Wentian could compare to. Su Fang used his divine power and pulled Han Shuo Realm Lord and the others into his inner world. After entering Su Fang's inner world, Han Shuo Realm Lord finally understood why Su Fang was able to enter the Chaos Golden Ranking and why Emperor Sangxiao would personally protect Su Fang. "Master, grandfather, I leave them to you." Xian Lingzi and Shu Yunkong were currently in charge of Su Fang's experts and the Shu clan. In terms of strength, Han Shuo Realm Lord was far superior to Xian Lingzi and Shu Yunkong, but he had no choice but to listen to their orders. I, Xian Lingzi, can actually command a realm lord of a great realm. Am I, Shu Yunkong, not the same? Xian Lingzi and Shu Yunkong would never have dreamed that such a day would come. With a realm lord of a great realm at their beck and call, both of them were greatly comforted and moved at the same time. The fact that the realm lord of Frost Shuo and the others had become Su Fang's subordinates made the old man with the goatee and the other hierarch realm experts of young Master Frost Shuo's previous subordinates feel so much regret that their intestines turned green. Prince Han Shuo had obtained Su Fang's protection. Not to mention anything else, just entering Primordia's heavenly palace was a simple matter. As for them, even if they found a new master, they might not have such a good thing. What's more, their new master was treating them like dogs. Young Master Han Shuo was the best example of this, especially the old man with the goatee. He had once schemed against Chang Chi Huang and was afraid that Su Fang would settle the score with him. He was so scared that he hid behind others and didn't dare to show his face. How could Su Fang place such a character in his eyes? After receiving the Frost Moon World Master and the others into his inner world, he immediately activated the heaven-breaking rainbow shuttle, turning into a golden beam of light that shot towards the space coordinates of Primordia's heavenly palace. About 3 months later, the golden rainbow cut through the void and suddenly stopped. Su Fang's figure appeared. He had finally arrived at the periphery of Yuan Tiangong. He looked over. In the void in front of him, there were many physical continents floating. All of them were created by supreme skills. There were also mobile worlds and magical treasures. There were so many of them that they were uncountable. They gathered in the void like a galaxy. In the center of the floating material continents and magical treasures, there was a magnificent palace. It wasn't real, but an illusion. However, it emitted a magnificent and majestic aura. This is Yuan Tiangong. It shouldn't be the entire Yuan Tiangong. It should be one of the entrances to Yuan Tiangong. Su Fang speculated in his mind. In front of Yuan Tiangong's palace, there were 7 huge golden Xianguang doors. They emitted a blinding light that illuminated the galaxy. These 7 light doors must be used to test Yuan Tiangong's entrance. I wonder what the test content will be. Su Fang flew towards the huge illusory palace. Along the way, Su Fang gradually saw some clues. The floating material continents and magical treasures surrounding the palace were the temporary footholds of the 8 forces from all over the universe. The closer they were to the palace, the stronger the forces. There was a clear hierarchy. Su Fang asked Hanshuo Realm Lord and learned the whole story. It turned out that after Yuan Tiangong was jointly established by the Supreme Masters, all the forces from all over the universe flocked to it like a flock of ducks. The reason couldn't be simpler. The apocalypse had begun to sweep across the God Realm. Who didn't want to enter Yuan Tiangong as a safe haven? Therefore, all the forces from all over the universe flocked to Yuan Tiangong, resulting in the scene in front of them. However, no matter how vast Yuan Tiangong was, it couldn't accommodate all the gods from all over the universe. Therefore, the number of people who could enter Yuan Tiangong was strictly limited. Other than the clans of some supreme masters, the only ones who could enter Yuan Tiangong were those on the Primordial Chaos Golden List and the supreme geniuses selected from all over the universe. These supreme geniuses were given a quota to enter Yuan Tiangong based on their test results. A quota meant that they had a chance to survive the apocalypse. Even a realm lord like Hanshuo Realm Lord was willing to give up everything and become someone else's slave, let alone other experts. As a result, the supreme geniuses on the Primordial Chaos Golden List, as well as the chosen God's children, suddenly became very popular. They became targets that all the forces fought to win over. Those who had geniuses on the Primordial Chaos Golden List or chosen God's children were naturally arrogant. They occupied the best positions in the outer regions of Yuan Tiangong. The other forces were also unwilling to give up. They waited for an opportunity to exchange for some precious quotas. How are the quotas allocated? Su Fang continued to ask Hanshuo Realm Lord. Hanshuo Realm Lord hurriedly replied, I'm not sure about the specifics. After all, the Hanshuo Divine Realm is very far away from here. News is limited. What I know is what my son got from young Master Wentian. However, one thing is certain. The higher the ranking in the palace test, the more quotas you will get. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. If I can only get 1 or 2 quotas, what's the use of them? Master doesn't have to worry about this. According to young Master Wentian, the supreme geniuses who are qualified to enter Yuan Tiangong can bring at least 1,000 people into Yuan Tiangong. With Master Supreme talent, you can at least rank in the top 1,000. Wouldn't it be easy for you to get tens of thousands of quotas? Tens of thousands of quotas? That's far from enough. Su Fang shook his head and sighed. At this time, the number of experts under his command, including the Shu clan members, was already more than 400,000. Moreover, Su Fang had so many relatives and friends in the outside world. How could tens of thousands of quotas be enough? It wasn't that Su Fang hadn't thought of using his internal world or treasures to bring these people into Yuan Tiangong. However, Su Fang knew very well that this idea was impossible. Since the quotas to enter Yuan Tiangong were so precious, how could it be so easy to enter Yuan Tiangong? One's internal world or treasures might be able to fool some supreme experts, but it was impossible to bring people into Yuan Tiangong. It might even backfire on him. The only way was to use his own strength to obtain a higher ranking in the palace test and get more quotas. Su Fong felt a heavy pressure. At this time, Shu Yinkong said, "Su Fong, don't put too much pressure on yourself. When the time comes, if there aren't enough quotas, you can choose a few people to follow you into Yuan Tiangong. Master will bring the Shu clan members and find a place to settle down in the outside world. Master, leave the quotas to this disciple. Master doesn't need to worry about it," Su Fong replied. Outside Yuan Tiangong, there were floating objects and treasures everywhere. Su Fong didn't dare to use the sky-splitting rainbow shuttle and could only fly. About 3 months later, Su Fong shuttled through the floating objects and treasures. From afar, he saw layers of light screens condensing into a world formed by the blue Xinguang. There were a total of 9 layers, like 9 layers of the sky. That's the Blue Sky Domain Lord's Blue Sky Domain. Su Fong recognized at a glance that the world formed by the treasures was the Blue Sky Domain Lord's Supreme Treasure, the Blue Sky Domain Lord's Blue Sky Domain. Chapter 2135. In the 9th level of the Azure Dome Domain Treasure's internal space, the Azure Dome Domain Lord was meeting with a guest in a huge hall. "Domain Lord, please make a decision. The 9 domains of the Azure Dome Domain and the 10 great worlds of the Azure Dome Domain in exchange for 1,000 spots to enter the Yuan Tiangong. Do you want to trade or not? Tell me." A fat man in a brocade robe, exuding an aura of wealth, crossed his legs and looked like he was going to eat the Azure Dome Domain Lord. Behind him stood a dozen followers, including a young man. It was Jiang Baozhen of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce. However, Jiang Baozhen was no longer the noble young master of the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce in the Star Billow Divine World. He was now a lowly follower. Opposite the fat man, the Azure Dome Domain Lord's face was gloomy, and he didn't speak for a long time. Heavenly Lord Yuhuang, Zhu Yanjun, Qi Shao Xinjun, and the other 3 Heavenly Lords and 10 Divine Lords stood behind him. The Star Billow Realm Lord, Kuan Su, young Master Tianwu, Bai Holan, and the others were also there. Although the 9 domains of the Azure Dome Domain are extraordinary, they are still external objects. Once the world changes again, there will be no safe place in the universe. At that time, even the Domain Lord will find it hard to protect himself. No matter how extraordinary the Dharma treasure is, it will be meaningless. Those great worlds will eventually fall into the hands of the resurrected experts. Exchanging them for 1,000 spots means 1,000 chances of survival. This isn't hard to calculate, right? The fat man continued with his glib tongue. Seeing that the Azure Dome Domain Lord still didn't speak, the fat man continued. If A.O. Cheongtian is still alive, the Domain Lord naturally won't worry about the spots to enter the Yuan Tiangong. Now that the Azure Dome Domain doesn't have a genius on the Primordial Chaos Golden List, and the Azure Dome Divine Child is a cultivator who ascended from a great world, the Azure Dome Domain can't get a single spot. If you continue to hesitate, the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce will have to find someone else. Divine Sovereign Qi Shao said, "Your Excellency, it's not worth it to exchange a quasi-creation divine artifact and the 10 Directions Divine World for 1,000 spots." It wouldn't be long before Su Fong arrived. At that time, he would exchange some slots with him. Su Fong is a very affectionate person, so he shouldn't ask for too much. Young Master Tianwu added, "Lord Divine Lord is right. With Su Fong's character, it shouldn't be a problem to obtain some quotas from him." The Blue Vault Domain Lord's eyes lit up. Su Fong, Fatty, snorted disdainfully at Qi Shao Xinjuan's words. "As far as I know, Su Fong and A.O. Cheongtian are sworn enemies. So why would they help Blue Dome Star Area? Besides, how many quotas does Su Fong have? Why would they be willing to exchange them?" It was for these reasons that the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce dared to ask for so much from the Blue Dome Domain Lord, wanting to squeeze oil out of his bones. Fine. The Blue Dome Domain Lord was silent for a long time before he finally sighed. He knew that the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce was taking advantage of the situation to extort them, but he had no choice but to accept it. Fatty was overjoyed. At this moment, Su Fong's voice came from outside. Su Fong requests an audience with the Blue Dome territorial lord. Su Fong, the Blue Dome domain lord, and the others were shocked and overjoyed. They abandoned Fatty and the people from the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce and walked out of the main hall. After a while, the Blue Dome domain lord and the others welcomed Su Fong into the main hall like stars surrounding the moon. "Young Master Jiang, why are you here?" Su Fong asked in surprise when he saw Jiang Baozhen. Although Jiang Baozhen was unscrupulous in his actions, he had helped Su Fong a lot. Moreover, Jiang Baozhen had made an agreement with Su Fong to search for the Golden Rainbow King's treasure together. For some reason, there had been no news of Jiang Baozhen, and the Golden Rainbow King's world had already entered Su Fong's inner world. "Young Master Su Fong, how have you been?" Jiang Baozhen was also overjoyed. He cupped his fists at Su Fong and looked flattered. Su Fong nodded and said, "I'll talk to you when I have the chance." The Blue Dome domain lord changed his mind and said to Fatty, "Home Master Zhu, let's discuss the exchange of quotas another day." The deal that was about to be concluded was ruined because of Su Fong's arrival. Fatty from the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce couldn't help but be angry. He got up and left. After walking out of the main hall, the Fatty vented his anger on Jiang Baozhen. He slapped Jiang Baozhen hard on the face, causing Jiang Baozhen to stagger and spit out a mouthful of blood with teeth. Jiang Baozhen had to swallow his anger and apologize repeatedly. In the main hall, the Blue Dome domain lord slowly explained the matter to Su Fong and then glanced at the Star Billow domain lord and Master Koen Su. His intention couldn't be more obvious. He wanted the two of them to ask Su Fong for some quotas, even if it was at a high price. Before the two of them could speak, Su Fong waved his hand and said, "I understand what the domain lord means. It's just that the entrance test hasn't started yet, so I can't promise you anything." The Blue Dome ruler's deep pupils revealed a trace of disappointment. As for the Starbillow World Master and esteemed Koen Su, they were filled with despair. If even the Blue Dome ruler couldn't obtain a spot to enter Primordius Heavenly Palace, then there was no need to mention them. Who knew? Su Fong's gaze swept past Koen Su, the Star Billow Domain Lord, Qi Xiao Shanjun, and the others. Then he said, "I am indebted to all of you in the past. If it weren't for you, Su Fong wouldn't have achieved what it has today. Young Master Tianwu and Bai Holan are also my friends. I don't dare to guarantee more spots, but I, Su Fong, am still able to provide more spots for everyone present. If I can obtain more spots, I can give some to everyone. It's not a bad idea." The Blue Dome Domain Lord and the others were pleasantly surprised. They looked at Su Fong with gratitude and emotion. A quota meant a chance to live. How could they not be grateful to Su Fong? Back then, Su Fong was just an insignificant ascended cultivator. He used the identity of a hedonistic son to sneak into Koen Su's divine sect. Now, they needed Su Fong to give them a chance to live. How could they not be emotional? Especially the Star Billow Domain Lord, Qi Xiao Shinjun, and the others. Fortunately, they chose to befriend Su Fong. Otherwise, how could they have gotten such a good opportunity? Su Fong didn't see the three divine kings and asked about their whereabouts. Only then did he know that the three divine kings had been taken away by Mo Tiangong. They were now mingling in the Yuan Tiangong. Everlasting life was also mingling in the Yuan Tiangong. Su Fong was very disappointed. It seemed that if Qingyu wanted to recover completely, he could only wait until he entered the Yuan Tiangong. Next, Su Fong was about to ask about the entrance test in the Yuan Tiangong when a god from the Yuan Tiangong came to the Blue Dome Domain Lord. This god was a dignified middle-aged man. His cultivation was extraordinary, reaching the level of a domain lord. Moreover, he came from the Yuan Tiangong. His status was not something that ordinary domain lords could compare with. The dignified middle-aged man looked at Su Fong. "You are Su Fong?" Before Su Fong could speak, the dignified middle-aged man took out an ancient mirror and pointed it at Su Fong. A rainbow-colored Xian Guang shot out from the mirror and enveloped Su Fong. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Fong's image appeared on the mirror. The dignified middle-aged man put away the ancient mirror and nodded. "Sure enough, you are Su Fong. I am a heaven punisher from the Yuan Tiangong. I have come here to verify your identity and inform you of some matters regarding the entrance test. Keep the token and jade slip well. The dignified, middle-aged man's expression became amiable as he spoke to Su Fong in a pleasant manner. After handing Su Fong a token and a jade slip, the dignified, middle-aged man left in embarrassment. Su Fong put away the token and asked in surprise, "Heaven Punisher? What kind of position is that?" The domain lord of the Blue Dome domain showed a look of awe. Heaven Punishers are the law enforcers sent by the Yuan Tiangong. They are all disciples of venerable sovereigns. Not only do they have extraordinary identities, but their strength is also amazing. Zhu Yanjun continued. The Heaven Punisher just now was just an ordinary Heaven Punisher guarding the entrance of the Yuan Tiangong. Just at the entrance of the main hall alone, there were hundreds of peerless masters at the level of King God and a venerable sovereign. Su Fong could not help but be shocked. But it was not strange. If there were not so many peerless masters guarding the entrance test, the periphery of the Yuan Tiangong would be in chaos before the entrance test began. Maybe someone would try to force his way into the Yuan Tiangong. Wouldn't the world be in chaos then? Su Fong temporarily stayed in the Blue Dome domain 9 domains. He took out the token and the jade slip. The token was the token that represented Su Fong's identity. Su Fong first integrated the token and then the jade slip. The jade slip contained information about the entrance test of the Yuan Tiangong into the palace. There were still more than 1,000 years before the entrance test of the Yuan Tiangong into the palace. The test method was also very simple. The results of the geniuses would be judged by breaking through the 7 gates of heaven. From there, they would be arranged to live in the inner area of the Yuan Tiangong, the treatment they would receive, and the allocation of places. Su Fong was most concerned about how the places would be allocated. There are more than 1,000 geniuses on the Hunyuan Golden List, and more than 10,000 divine sons from various star regions. There are quite a lot of people, including geniuses from the ancient god realm. Xuanqing should also be there at that time. The geniuses at the bottom of the list have 1,000 places to enter the Yuan Tiangong. Every time they move up 1 place in the list, there will be an extra place. Within the top 1,000, every time they move up 1 place, there will be an extra 100 places. Within the top 100, every time they move up 1 place, there will be an extra 1,000 places. For the top 10, every time they move up 1 place, there will be an extra 10,000 places. Seeing this, Su Fong's eyes flashed with a bright light. If I enter the top 1,000, I will have at least 10,000 places. If I enter the top 100, I will have at least 90,000 places. The entrance test of the palace this time has gathered all the peerless geniuses from the ancient god realm and the god realm. I should be very confident that I can enter the top 1,000, but the chances of entering the top 100 are not high. No matter what, I will do my best to fight for every place, no matter the cost. While he was excited, Su Fong also felt heavy pressure. A place meant that the fate of his family, friends, and experts under his command would be decided. No matter what, he had to fight for it. I wonder what kind of test the 7 gates of heaven is like. Chapter 2136. To enter the palace, one had to pass through 7 gates of heaven. Each gate had a different test, and the jade slip didn't reveal what the test was. However, Su Fong could guess that the test was to test the talent and strength of the geniuses. Regardless of whether it was Su Fong's aptitude or strength, he was extremely extraordinary. However, in this assessment, all the peerless geniuses from various worlds, especially those geniuses from the ancient god world, were gathered. He was not completely confident that he could make it into the top 100. Moreover, he definitely wouldn't dare to take out the Origin Sacred Mirror during the test. His subordinates and Big Goblin wouldn't be able to help him either, so his strength would definitely be affected. I have to enter the top 500 at least. Su Fong set a goal for himself. He didn't have extravagant hopes of bringing all his family, friends, and subordinates into Yuan Tiangong. However, he had to ensure that some of his family, friends, and subordinates who had followed him for many years. Entering the top 500 meant that he would obtain at least 50,000 slots. This was his bottom line. Su Fang also learned a rule from the Jade Slip. After entering Yuan Tiangong, one wouldn't be able to sit back and relax. They would be ranked according to their performance in various aspects. At the same time, they could also obtain new slots to enter Yuan Tiangong. After thinking for a while, Su Fang released the Frost Realm Lord from his inner world. There's an extremely important matter that requires your attention. The Frost Realm Lord cupped his fists. Master, please instruct me. Take a trip to the outside world and bring my family here. The sooner, the better. Su Fang solemnly arranged. Su Fang was still worried about leaving his father, Su Yaodian, and his other family and friends in the outside world. In the past, he didn't have the strength, but now that he was about to enter Yuan Tiangong, Su Fang immediately thought of them. There were still so many subordinates in the outside world. Su Fang couldn't bring all of them to the God Realm. He could only choose to bring some of them into Yuan Tiangong first. Go to the lower realm? The Frost Realm Lord was startled. Only now did he realize that Su Fang was a cultivator who ascended from the outside world. He immediately agreed. Su Fang didn't dare to be careless when it came to his father and other relatives. I'll have my second primordial spirit and some experts follow you to the lower realm. With your strength, your second primordial spirit, and the other experts, there shouldn't be any problems. However, you still have to be careful, especially with Sanskrit. Don't worry, Master. Even if I die, I won't let Master's family and friends suffer any harm. Domain Lord Hanshua also realized the importance of this matter and promised Su Fang. Go. A black Xian Guang shot out from Su Fang's eyes and landed on Hanshua's forehead. Other than the Frost Moon Realm Lord, Su Fang had also sent out Undead King. In the Yuan Tiangong, Undead King, a resurrected elite, definitely could not be brought out. Letting him follow the Frost Moon Realm Lord was also considered a helper. In addition, Su Fang had also sent the 2 divine venerables of the Frost Moon Realm, as well as hundreds of divine emperors and thousands of big goblin, to the Frost Moon Realm Lord. Unexpectedly, Bai Ling also volunteered to return to the Great World. Brother, you can participate in the palace entrance test. Since I have nothing to do, I can go back to the Great World and take a look. Su Fang thought about it, then agreed. After sending off the Frost Moon Realm Lord, Su Fang used his Great Perfection stage ability and also activated the Heavenly Fate shrinking technique to sense Xuanxin's fate aura. The outer regions of the Yuan Tiangong were too vast, and Su Fang couldn't sense Xuanxin's aura completely. He also contacted Xuanxin through the Vermilion Bird Mirror, but the consciousness he released was like before. He also didn't know where Xuanxin was now. Thus, Su Fang sent out subordinates to investigate the Divine Phoenix clan and Xuanxin's whereabouts. At the same time, Su Fang also sent out experts to find out where Law was. Law was being hunted down by the Azura Divine clan and was heavily injured. Su Fang couldn't help but worry. Then, Su Fang began to settle down in his cultivation. He wanted to advance to the next level before the palace entrance test. If he could form another Yang Meridian, it would be better for him to gain a deeper understanding of the yin-yang change. At this time, Su Fang was no longer stingy with his various resources. He obtained various resources from the Tong Bao Chamber of Commerce, took the opportunity to obtain another batch of Earth-ranked spirit items and pills from the Golden Rainbow King, and young Master Hanshua also gave him a large amount of resources. It was enough for Su Fang to squander for the next 1,000 years. The natural aura of heaven and earth, as well as the heavenly Tao laws, seems a little different here. Su Fang immediately sensed the abnormality as soon as he entered his cultivation state. The 9 domains of the Azure Dome domain was the Azure Dome domain Lord's half-creation divine tool. It was naturally integrated with the outside world, so it didn't hinder cultivation inside. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised to find that although the deathly aura released by Xie Yang still existed in the natural aura of heaven and earth, it was very weak. The heavenly Tao laws were also not corroded like in other places. After carefully sensing it, Su Fang fell into a state of shock. It turned out that the heavenly Tao aura here was released from the huge and majestic palace illusion. Moreover, there were also astonishing heavenly Tao laws radiating from the palace illusion, covering the void in all directions. Living in the Yuan Tiangong is indeed amazing. If I cultivate here, won't I not be affected by the changes in heaven and earth and be able to attract the chaos divine tribulation? Su Fong immediately released all of his subordinates, as well as the Shu clan members, and had them cultivate in the 9 domains of the Azure Dome domain. The 9 domains of the Azure Dome domain was like a 9-layered world, not to mention a mere 400,000 people. Even if there were 1,000 times more, it could easily accommodate them. As Su Fong expected, his subordinates who were shackled while trying to break through to the next realm easily attracted the chaos divine tribulation. However, these subordinates couldn't be placed in the 9 domains of the Azure Dome domain. Otherwise, under the continuous bombardment of the chaos divine tribulation, even the half-creation divine tool wouldn't be able to withstand it. Therefore, the chaos divine tribulation constantly descended outside the 9 domains of the Azure Dome domain. It was very lively and spectacular, attracting the attention of countless people. Su Fong was overjoyed to have solved a big problem. At the same time, he was even more determined to obtain more quotas to enter the Yuan Tiangong. Yin-Yang transformation. Su Fong released the flower of heavenly Tao and used the yin-yang transformation. A pile of resources, including various kinds of pills, spiritual objects, gems, and origin stones, rapidly returned to their origin under the divine power of the yin-yang transformation and turned into chaos chi. In less than 10 breaths, the pile of valuable resources was completely refined into nothingness by Su Fong and then completely devoured. Chaos energy was a type of energy that surpassed the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth, as well as the essence of the power of the world. Wisps of chaos energy were sucked into Su Fong's body, and the world tree began to tremble violently, growing 10 times faster than before. Moreover, after the birth of 66 yang meridians, Su Fong's consumption of the yin-yang transformation decreased. In addition, he was devouring all kinds of resources that contained the energy of the world and not other materials, spiritual energy, or death chi. Therefore, it was much easier for him to absorb the chaos chi than he consumed. Then, the yin-yang energy of the world gushed out from the world tree and began to circulate again and again, constantly attacking the meridians, bones, flesh, and spiritual dwellings. The magic power in the divine aperture was constantly boiling, and the yang spirit was automatically peeling off, transforming, and merging. It was in a state of self-cultivation. About 200 years later, because Su Fong was using the yin-yang transformation and devouring the chaos chi to cultivate, he couldn't keep it in the time cavern. Although the time cavern was extraordinary, it was a magic treasure refined by Shu Yunkong after all. It couldn't withstand the terrifying power of the yin-yang transformation. Therefore, Su Fong cultivated in the 9 domains of the Green Dome for more than 200 years. Suddenly, Su Fong revealed a domineering smile. Then, with a chi sound, a burst of tribulation chi rushed out from his body. Then, with a huff sound, flames burned wildly. They were all tribulation fire. At the same time, Su Fong also activated the 9 yang divine fire. In the state of the illusory fire cloud, it fused with the tribulation fire and burned wildly. His body was being torn apart, and impurities kept pouring out. This time, the tribulation fire burned for 3 months. Only then did it start to cleanse the marrow. His body merged from the broken state. His meridians, body, and spiritual dwellings became deeper. An aura that came from the heavenly Tao quickly condensed another heaven mark in his body. It was like a mark of the heavenly Tao. 5th heaven divine venerable. Using the chaotic chi to cultivate, the speed of improvement is indeed amazing. Su Fong was immersed in the joy of breaking through. Then, he began to devour the chaos essence pearl refined by Ji Feng. His empty body began to recover bit by bit, and he stabilized his cultivation as soon as possible. At the same time, he activated the 9 yang 9 changes and absorbed the chaos essence yang chi in the chaos essence pearl to break through the 67th yang meridian. The Chaos Essence Sacred Mirror refined Ji Feng's Chaos Essence Pearl and consumed a lot of it. At this time, there was less than 1/3 of it left. The resources consumed by this cultivation was also astonishing. This was the price to pay for rapid improvement. Not to mention ordinary gods. Even those peerless geniuses from large factions would find it difficult to bear. Before and after Su Feng's advancement, the experts and Big Goblin under him continued to advance to higher levels. Even Xian Lingzi successfully advanced to the Divine Venerable Realm. During the cultivation period, the experts sent by Su Feng returned one after another. They found out that the ancient Divine Phoenix clan had already arrived at the periphery of the Yuan Tiangong. However, the area where the ancient Divine Phoenix clan lived was near the entrance of the Yuan Tiangong, not to mention Su Feng's subordinates. Even Su Feng found it difficult to enter. Moreover, the ancient Divine Phoenix clan's residence was surrounded by layers of powerful barriers that isolated it from the outside world. It was difficult to communicate with the people inside. No wonder even the Vermilion Bird Mirror had lost its function. Although he could not meet Xuanxin, Su Feng knew that he was not far away for Xuanxin. He was very excited. I'm going to see Xuanxin soon. So many years have passed, there's no need to rush. I'll naturally see her when I enter the palace for the test. Su Feng's experts still could not find any news of Law. However, they encountered experts from the Azure Divine clan and successfully killed one of them. After using the Soul Search, they found out that the Azure Divine clan was still hunting Law. Su Feng heaved a sigh of relief. At least Law had not fallen into the hands of the Azure Divine clan. There was no news from Shu Wanjin's side. Su Feng tried to contact her through the Origin Sacred Mirror, but there was no response. He guessed that she had encountered some trouble. The second primordial spirit and the Hanshur Realm Lord had gone to the Great World. There would not be any news from them for a while. Time flew by. When Su Feng gradually stabilized his cultivation at the 5th level of the Heavenly Realm and began to break through to the peak, it was already time for the test. Dong! A loud and solemn bell rang from the illusory palace and spread in all directions. The periphery of the Yuan Tiangong was in an uproar. Geniuses were escorted by many gods as they flew toward the illusory palace in the central area.